Legion led by Mayor Ding, myself. Please stand and put your right hand on your heart. Repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Ding.
Here.
Vice Mayor Harrington.
Here.
Councilmember Menchaca.
Here.
Councilmember Rivera.
Here.
Councilmember Wu.
Here.
We will now have some announcement from our Chief City Clerk.
Tonight's meeting is live streamed on Cable Channel 3 and our online platforms. If you wish to address the City Council during tonight's meeting, we request that you please complete a speaker's card and put it in the box at the podium in the front of the auditorium. When speaking, please state your name for the record. If you wish to be added to the distribution list to receive City Council agendas, please email your request to cityclerk@sgch.org.
Okay. Approve the agenda order. Are there any objection to the agenda order? I hear none. The agenda order is approved. And next item, please.
Presentations, introduction and promotion of Fire Captain Philip Apparis. Fire Chief Wallace will make the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Ding, Vice Mayor Harrington, members of the City Council. Tonight it's my great honor to introduce to you our newly promoted Fire Captain, Philip Apparis. Captain Apparis has served the City of San Gabriel since 2011 when he started his career with us as an auxiliary firefighter. He's held the ranks as well of firefighter, paramedic, and most recently fire engineer. Phil is very active in our department and has been at the forefront of our health and wellness initiatives over the past few years. And in addition to his duties as a fire captain, is our paramedic coordinator, responsible for compliance with the monumental regulations and ever-changing landscape in the EMS world that we have to follow as advanced life support providers. He also helped guide us through emerging from the paramedic and returning our EMS services back to what we call normal. This evening, Phil is joined by his fiancée, Janet Pena, and at this time, if you could ask the Chief City Clerk to please administer his oath of office.
I, Philip Apparis,
Do solemnly swear
that I
will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and to the Constitution of the State of California,
that I enter into this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter. Thank you very much.
Congratulations. Tonight, Philip will have his badge pinned by his fiancée, Janet Pena. And Captain Apparis, if you'd like, we can do a picture with the council since we're up here. Sure. Go towards the light. And Captain, I believe you wanted to make a few remarks.
Just a few short words. Mayor Ding, City Council members, City Manager, I'm grateful to be standing in front of you here tonight. Thank you for this opportunity that's been bestowed upon me. I am proud and honored to serve the citizens of San Gabriel and to work alongside some of the hardest working and compassionate people that I know. Thank you, Chief Wallace, for having your faith and confidence in my ability to lead and support the fire department's mission. These are some exciting times for the fire department, and I'm honored for the integral part of its future. To the members of the San Gabriel Fire Department, thank you. It is your support and wisdom that gave me strength to push forward and pursue advancement within the organization. Tonight, I make a promise to you all that I will do my best to be kind, positive, clear, and compassionate. To my family and friends, you are the most amazing and supportive family that anyone could ever wish for. You have kept me going when I felt like giving up. My gratitude to you is infinite and endless. Thank you. And finally, Janet, she was hiding behind. My love, thank you for being by my side every step of the way. You are truly amazing. Thank you for making my life so wonderful. Thank you.
Item B, Native American Heritage Month. During the National Native American Heritage Month, we celebrate the rich tapestry of the indigenous people of the original ancestral land and the indigenous inhabitants of the what is now the United States, who have moving story of the tragedy, triumph, and the preservation with which we recognize as essentially woven into the history of this country. And where the Native American have enriched our heritage and continue to to all aspects of our society through their continued practice of the teaching, economic, environmental, and cultural sustainability. And there is a long history of the action from the arrival of the Spanish colonization to the federal policies that saw and assimilate and display the native people and eradicated native culture. Their culture has survived by their strength and preservation. During the month of November, we honor our native people in their ancient home and recognize their continued contribution in our strength and the diversity of our society. I, Tony Ding, Mayor of the City of San Gabriel, California, on behalf of our City Council, Vice Mayor John R. Harrington, Council Member Denise Menchaca, Karina Rivera, and John Wu, do hereby the proper November 2, 2022 as a Native American Heritage Month in City of San Gabriel, and encourage the community to join this observance. Okay, it's Chief, please welcome Chief Anthony Morris coming on the stage, receive the proclamation.
After he speaks, then. Greetings. My name is Chief Anthony Morales. I'm the tribal chief and chairman of the Gabrielino San Gabriel Band of Mission Indians. And it's an honor to be here tonight in front of our city council, in front of my residents of San Gabriel, in receiving this proclamation. Again, I want to thank City Council, the residents of San Gabriel for honoring myself and our tribe, the Gabrielino San Gabriel Band of Mission Indians. Way before San Gabriel was incorporated in 1913, our ancestors were here and built the San Gabriel Mission 250 years ago, which we just celebrated in September, the 250th anniversary of San Gabriel Mission. Again, it's an honor because we're still here. We're still here. We still exist. We're not forgotten. And so again, thank you to all of you. It's an honor. My son wants to say something in our language, just acknowledging basically what I said, but in our language. This is my son guiding young cloud, Andrew Morales.
Thank you, Jehovah. Mihayo yehia mihayo tatarum netaran urumut navakit on onikuk tamiyar yakine anache hanar. Mihayo as a sabangna tahisha kuna Jehovah napar daryoko Mihiatikas Meniat Anatatarod Ataharoid Napar Koko Adikana Dohid Miha Sibangna Tangwa Tamagad. Again, I want to say thank you, and I just want to say to welcome into Tongva village of San Gabriel, Dohid. Thank you, the City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We have the digital people that make our city, it's a multicultural and a historical city too, and a city with the mission. And next one, it's a Lung Cancer Awareness Month. And this month, it's a Lung Cancer Awareness Month. Lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer deaths among men and women in the United States and California. The 5 years survival rate for the localized lung cancer, it's 60%. Only 24% lung cancer are diagnosed at this stage. And screening for the lung cancer can lead to early detection of the lung cancer and save the life. African Americans have the highest lung cancer incidence and the majority of all race. The stigma surrounding lung cancer create barriers to early diagnostic, treatment, and the funding for the research, has a detrimental impact on the quality of life of the people diagnosed with the lung cancer, and the higher awareness of and the research in the lung cancer risk factor other than smoking. Lung cancer research is leading to breakthrough in the identification of the genetic attorney associated with the lung cancer and the develop in the lung cancer treatment, include immunotherapies and targeted therapy. So now, therefore, Tony Ding, Mayor of the City of San Gabriel, California, on behalf of the City Council, Vice Mayor John R. Harrington, Council Member Denise Menchaga, Karina Rivera, and John Wu, do hereby proclaim the November 2022 as the Lung Cancer Awareness Month in City of San Gabriel, and urging the citizens of the San Gabriel to join me in the special observance. That's the Lung Cancer Awareness Month. The next one, It's united against hate week. The United States, its national of immigrants whose strengths come from the diversity, and the Constitution ensuring us equal all and all individual, regardless of the race, gender, original, religion, and political view. And the deep diversity with our country are the result of extreme ideology, further strengthening of the circle of the mistrust and suspicion fueled by the fear, anxiety, and insecurity. The number of the hate crime across the United States has increased dramatically over the past 6 years. The city of San Gabriel is dedicated to prevent and opposition hate and intolerance in our community. The City Council support LA vs. Hate United Against Hate Week 2022. The city activity to stop hate, intolerance, and bullying, and promote a safe, inclusive, and equity neighborhood. Education, compassion, and cooperation are key to unlocking understanding and embracing difference between people. And we seek to join other communities in California and the city across the country in this third annual LA vs. Hate United Against Hate Week as an important step in bringing the diversity and the strengthening to our community. Now, therefore, I, Tony Ding, Mayor of the City of San Gabriel, California, on behalf of the City Council, Vice Mayor John R. Harrington, Council Member Denise Menchaca, Karina Rivera, and John Wu, do hereby proclaim November 13 to 19, 2022 as the United Against Hate Week in the City of San Gabriel, and encourage the community to join in this observance. Please let Asia Youth Center Deputy Director Christine Lee and Stop Hate Program the Manager Heidi Law to accept the proclamation. Please on the stage. Yes. Okay. All right. So we just go together. Yeah, all the council members that go together take a photo.
Good evening, everyone. On behalf of Asian Youth Center, we are very honored to receive the United Against Hate Week proclamation from the City of San Gabriel. Since the pandemic, the xenophobia, harassment, and racism are on the rise across the U.S. According to LA County Commission on Human Relations, the hate crime rose 76% in 2020. And since the start of the COVID-19, according to Stop AAPI Hate, over 208 incidents in the San Gabriel Valley happened. And our mission is to dedicate to addressing hate through community education and engagement and mobilization activity to empower the community member to prevent, intervene, and recover from hate. And since last year, Asian Youth Center have been involving different projects to anti-hate, from bystander intervention training, API renewal section, as known as Healing Circle. And also we have partnered with LA versus Hate to involve in different projects to combat hate. And for LA versus Hate, it is an anti-hate program of the LA County Commission on Human Relations. This is a call for a 17-day campaign to stop the hate and implicit bias. And thank you very much for having us being here, and thanks again for the City of San Gabriel to issue the proclamation.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Sharon.
Public comment. This is the time set aside for members of the public to address the City Council on items of interest that are not on the agenda, but are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the San Gabriel City Council. If you wish to address the council, please fill out a speaker's card and hand it to the clerk. Our first speaker this evening is Debbie Kilgore.
Hello, I have several items to address. Number one is election signs. People have election signs illegally placed all through the city, and that includes 3 of our active council members. So don't you follow the rules? Anything that you hand out, you can give them a sign that tells them how far to put them, but they're and all of a sudden there's a Chen who's running for state controller. I mean, in the last 2 days, the signs are placed everywhere. You guys want to be our leaders, please follow the rules. Number 2, it's really interesting how the budget for each of the council or people running for city council runs from $15,000 to $122,000. I do think we really do need to set some limits on budgets today, because it doesn't mean they wouldn't be a good council member, but the money they're spending, it takes away from notification for people to learn about other ones. All the candidates have signed a form that's put out by the Secretary of State for California. It's called the Code of Fair Campaign Practices. And it's where everybody signs. It talks about what your behavior is going to be. It's a list of not putting people down, not doing bad things. You guys are running a campaign, it should be nice and clean. Well, I do know, in working with a friend of mine just recently, that he was given flyers that were handed out about him. And it's about something he did 2 years ago, but all of a sudden they're being handed out. Even on my next door tonight, at 6 hours ago, I got a notice of an article written by Sean McMorris, who happens to be on our planning commission, and his mother, Cheryl Cabot, who is also on one of our commissions. Why are they doing that? Why don't they just, you can say it, but don't publish stuff like that. I have a comment though. It's for Menchaca's shadow campaign. And this is written by Eric Chan, who is being really bad-mouthed. I am here to bring the public's attention to the unethical campaigning of council member Menchaca and her husband John Menchaca have engaged in. Candidate Menchaca signed the Code of Fair Campaign Practices when she signed up to be a candidate. That code requires candidates to campaign openly, not have any secret or shadow campaigns, and not to personally attack other candidates. Recently, Denise and her husband John were out walking the streets. They weren't doing any political stuff for them. They were handing out these flyers, and they were in large Chinese neighborhoods. It's only in Chinese and English, and the Chinese translation is very different from what is actually in the English, and it's very gross. When you can go back and you read articles of a person that...
Thank you. Your time is up.
What?
Sorry, your time is over? Your 3 minutes?
Okay, but they're flyers that are being handed out by our council member, and it's not what she's supposed to do. Why are you doing this?
Our next speaker is Jan Phan.
今日我嚟呢度係同我哋嘅中文嘅講嘅，我哋嚟呢度個公眾嘅關注係理事會成員門查卡去同我哋嘅
Today
丈
I'm
夫
here to speak
約
for
翰
the Chinese
所從事唔道德
people
競選嘅活動。候選人門查卡在報名成為一個候選人嗰陣時，係有一個簽署，因為係得3分鐘嘅公平競選行為守則。呢個守則要求候選人公開競爭，唔可以有任何嘅秘密或者影子嚟到競選呢個活動，唔可以人身攻擊其他嘅候選人。最近門查卡同約翰見到喺院裏有陳福正競選嘅標誌的居民咧，佢就進行嘅拉票，係咁嘅。佢哋俾人哋見到咧，記錄到咧，散發嗰啲傳單，惡意嚟到處用嗰啲嚟處理過嗰啲相片啊、圖像啊，誹謗陳福正，傳單宣傳錯誤信息同埋謊言。呢種嘅行為唔淨止唔符合身為現在係一個市議會嘅議員同埋佢所簽署嘅文章，當候選人以呢種嘅方式嚟到行事，大家雖然知道我哋嘅選擇係保證正確嘅。另外一個方面，由於開發人員嘅行為，我哋今晚在場各位應該要審問所有候選人的選擇披露表，佢哋會感到即係震驚。當你知道呢個門查卡佢得到呢個工商開發商人嘅捐款係個數量係幾大㗎？順便喺呢度我哋要詢問佢呢個為咗我哋市民嘅利益呢，或者為咗開發商嗰啲人嘅利益，同時佢哋喺呢個門查卡同埋 Rivera 喺呢個垃圾公司度呢，又收到一筆好大嘅捐款。咁啊，同時佢喺呢個委員會度呢，佢哋同呢個垃圾公司簽咗11年嘅，再延遲11年嘅合同，然後主張支持現象。咁我哋是否相信呢個捐贈係巧合呢？所以我哋要捐，所以我哋要觀察睇下呢個關注睇呢個錢嘅路數，同埋希望佢哋同我哋有個解釋。
The councilman's member Machenka and her husband John Machenka's campaigning activities. And then they are engaging in unethical campaign. And the candidate of Macenta, when she signed up to become a candidate for the council, she has signed the fair campaign activity regulations. These regulations require the candidate to conduct public campaigning and cannot engage in any shadowing or secret campaign activities, and cannot commit any personal attack against other candidates. Recently, Macenta and her husband John have been passing flyers to the people, and the flyer that they passed out had the intention of use doctored photographs and drawings to defame and to pass on other untrue information and lies. And these kind of campaign activities not only is not conforming to her position as a present councilman, and also it counter to the fair campaign regulation that she has signed. when a candidate use this kind of a conduct, we need to know our selection would be correct or not. On another hand, because of the developers' activity and everybody who is present tonight would have to examine all the candidates about their campaigning, and also everybody would feel that they are surprised to know that the developer had donated huge fund to McKenter's, and then that leads to our question whether she's going to work for the people of the city or for her own personal interest or for the interest of the developer that donated huge fund to her. And at the same time, McKenna and Rivera had received a large donation in the amount of $4,900 from the trash company. And also McKenna is a member of the committee and which had extended the trash company's contract for another 11 years.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Okay.
The next speaker is Sue Fitzsimmons.
Mayor Ding, Vice Chair Harrington, City Council, good evening. Sue Fitzsimmons here. I'm here tonight to talk to you about the community engagement team. It was recently brought to my attention that there was a resident that was experiencing an awful lot of noise in her house, in her neighborhood. She was unable to sleep. She contacted Chief Harris. He then contacted the community engagement team. They made a trip out to this resident's home. She lives on DeSales, and she lives next to a group home. And unfortunately, her bedroom happened to be right by the parking lot. And with cars coming and going and people coming and going and change of shifts, and with the summer being so warm, her window was up, so there was a lot of noise. So she was having a problem sleeping. So the community engagement team got together, made a plan, and said, okay, we look at your house, you have a bedroom on the opposite side of the house. Let's move you to the opposite side of the house where the noise level is non-existent. They were able to come up with some funds. They purchased her a portable air conditioning unit, moved her with the help of some officers to this other side of the bedroom. The problem was solved. I'm here tonight to say the community engagement team wears many hats. This is but one. They're out to serve the community. Now, they're not looking for any recognition. In fact, they don't even know I'm here talking about them tonight, but I am. Because I think it's important that everybody knows that we have some great teams that work for this city and for these great residents. As a resident and as a block captain, I want to tell them thank you. Job well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Police Chief Eugene Harris.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, good evening. I know this is a little unorthodox to have the police chief speaking during public comment, but I was approached by a few of the residents with an important message, and that is regarding the changing in the time and having a lot of pedestrians out in the roadways lately. They wanted me to pass on a message to the community to make sure that they're wearing reflective clothing, and let's make sure we're looking out after each other in the dark hours, and to remind folks that our Traffic Bureau hands out the bracelets, the reflective bracelets and the reflective vests, absolutely free to people of the community. If you just give us a call, contact our Traffic Bureau, we'll make sure that we get you those vests and get you what they're called flippets that flip onto your wrists so that you can walk and be reflective out there at night. So we just wanted to pass that message on to the public in the spirit of community safety, and hope that everybody can take us up on our offer. And if not, make sure you're wearing reflective clothing, and let's have a very, very safe fall season. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have no more speaker cards.
All right. So next item.
Consent
Please.
calendar. All items listed under the consent calendar are considered routine, and recommendations will be approved in one motion unless a member of the City Council or public requests separate discussion. We have not received requests from the public to pull any items. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54953C3, reporting requirements, consent item C includes changes in salary and benefits for all unrepresented employees, including executive management, as follows: a 3% salary increase, an increase from 8 to 16 floating holiday hours, an increase in the uniform allowance from $800 to $1,000 effective calendar year 2023, and an increase of 1 full day bereavement pay for employees who must travel more than 200 miles. In addition, new hires starting January 1, 2023 shall be excluded from receiving retiree medical benefits pursuant to Resolution Number 03-27 and shall instead receive the Public Employees Medical Hospital Care Act statutory minimum as set forth in Government Code Section 22892 upon their retirement from the city.
Would any council member like to pull an item for separate discussion?
I'll move to approve, Mayor.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion made by Councilmember Menchaca and the second by Councilmember Rivera. City Clerk, please take the vote.
Councilmember Menchaca?
Aye.
Councilmember Rivera?
Aye.
Councilmember Wu?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Harrington?
Aye.
Mayor Ding?
Aye.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
Next item, please.
We have no public hearing or continued business tonight. Our next item is new business item A, Ordinance Number 686, Adoption of 2022 California Building and Fire Codes. Community Development Management Analyst Chris Kalbakian will make the presentation.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of the City Council. My name is Chris Kalbakian. I'm the Management Analyst for the Building Division in the Community Development Department. This item before you is to introduce the introduction of the City Ordinance to adopt the latest version of the Building Standard Codes and amendments specifically for the City of San Gabriel. The first reading is to introduce the ordinance and to seek direction from Council. If approved, the second reading will be the next council meeting on November 15th for adoption. The building standard codes are updated every 3 years. These updates are necessary to keep up with new technologies, new scientific knowledge, and state goals. One example includes the installation of EV charging stations. If adopted, it will apply to construction projects applied on or after January 1st, 2023. The state recognizes that each local jurisdiction has unique geographical and climate needs, and statewide mandates may not work well for every local area. Therefore, cities are allowed administrative and technical amendments adopted into the city ordinance. In broad view, these are essentially two categories of amendments. The first type of amendment are historical and have been on the books for a long time. Building and fire staff reviewed the historical ordinances and how it was relevant to current environment. While all of them are detailed in the staff report, Some highlights include fire sprinkler and alarm requirements, sandblasting regulations, and other specialized construction. The second type of amendments are technical in nature, and that include structural design to prevent seismic hazards beyond the state's prescriptive mandates. This is because the city of San Gabriel, along with every other city and county in the Los Angeles basin, are in high earthquake hazard zones due to the proximity to the faults. Since notice to the public is crucial, we posted the code update information on the city website, on the public counter, and the bulletin board since early October. Because code updates are a state mandate, if code amendments aren't adopted, they will be mandated as published. This concludes my introduction to the ordinance. Myself and the Deputy Fire Marshal are here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Does any council member have a factual question for the staff to clarify the report?
Yes,
Councilmember Wu?
Yes. Hi, Chris. Thank you so much for the introductions. A quick question is about the new building and fire codes that take effect after January 1st, 2023. So for those people who is already applying for their permit and they may not be complete their works, I mean, which being permitted, so would that be affected?
So essentially, if projects are submitted before January 1st, they can be submitted under the 2019 building code. Once it's January 1st, they would have to submit using the 2022 code. And typically that's for projects that include like additions and remodels and brand new residential. If they want to submit under the old code, they have to make sure they do it before January 1st. And if they've already submitted, then they're under the old code. They don't have to follow the new code. And typically, once they submit, they go through, let's say if it's a plan check, for instance, they'll go through plan check. It'll go past January 1st. Once their plan is approved, they can pull permits and they just follow the old code.
So that is both for residential and commercial?
This is both for residential and commercial, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any council member have to clarify the question? If none, Chief Clerk, do we have any public comments?
We've not received any cards, Mayor.
Okay. It's now time for the council discussion. Who would like to start it? Okay. Okay, so.
I'll just move to approve. There's no questions, Mayor.
Okay. The motion,
A motion to approve the recommended actions, which are listed A through K.
okay.
I'll second.
Okay, it's a motion has been made by Councilmember Menchaca and the second by Councilmember Wu. Clerk, please take the vote.
Councilmember Menchaca?
Aye.
Councilmember Rivera?
Aye.
Councilmember Wu?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Harrington?
Aye.
Mayor Ding?
Aye.
Motion passes by a vote of 5-0.
Next item, please.
Mayor, staff has requested a very short break so that we may brief the translator for the next item, if that would be agreeable.
Okay. I think if the whole discussion is translated too, right? Okay.
We're going to have to work with the translator.
Okay, all right. Oh, so we,
Just need about a 5-minute break.
okay. Maybe, okay. So I think maybe a lot of maybe have the public comments, so maybe we take the 5 minutes for the health break. So we come back the 7:25. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Well, now
The
invite-
meeting is beginning. Please sit down.
A discussion regarding Universal Shopping Plaza. I will now invite our certified Cantonese translator to the podium, along with Community Development Director Cervantes, who will make the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. This next item is a discussion regarding Universal Shopping Plaza as it relates to the concerns raised by existing business owners of the site.
咁下一項嘅討論呢，係有關呢個環球購物中心，就係有關到嗰啲商家嘅關切嘅事情，同埋呢即係喺嗰度租賃商店嗰啲商家嘅關切嘅事情。
At the October 4th City Council meeting, the Council heard from many of the business owners regarding concerns about the pending facade improvement project and their abilities to either continue operations at the site or with regards to issues of lease agreements.
喺10月4號呢，我哋市議會已經開會呢，就係去接取好多商家係有關佢哋關切到呢個咁嘅工程同埋佢哋有冇能力可以繼續喺嗰度做生意呢？同時呢係有關佢哋嗰啲租約嘅問題。
With regards to the renovation project, on March 28, 2022, the Design Review Committee approved a project that included a significant facade improvement to the buildings as well as improvements to the parking lot, signage, and landscaping. This meeting was held virtually at a duly noticed public hearing.
有關呢個裝修嘅工程呢，喺3月28號2022年呢，呢個市政府嘅設計審核委員會呢，已經係批准咗呢個工程嘅呢啲工程呢，就係批准嘅工程呢，就係包括係大幅度去改善呢個購物中心嘅外觀，以及去改善呢個購物中心嘅停車場啊。 同埋佢嗰啲標誌啊，同埋嗰啲花草樹木嘅設備啊，咁樣呢一次嘅開會咧，就係通過視頻同埋咧已經係向民眾咧係通知咗有關呢個開會嘅進行嘅。
And subsequent to the hearing, the Design Review Committee unanimously approved the project. No appeal was submitted during the appeal period.
咁開咗會之後咧，呢個設計審核委員會咧係一致咁樣係批准咗呢個工程。咁同時咧，喺呢個上訴嘅期間咧，就係冇人提出呢個上訴。
Soon after this approval and hearing of the many concerns of the business owners, staff met with the ownership group on several occasions with the goal of understanding the construction methods of the project and to convince the owners of the property to phase the project in a manner that benefits the project as well as the tenants.
咁當呢個批准咗呢個工程之後咧，我哋嘅部門嘅工作人員咧，有多次咧係同嗰啲商家係去見面，咁佢嘅目的咧就係等我哋去了解一下有關呢個工程進行嘅方式，以及去說服嗰個物業嘅呢個發展商咧，佢應該係將呢個工程進度咧嚟去設計一個進度咧，就能夠對於呢個工程同埋對於呢個商家租客咧都係有好處。
But despite our efforts, it is ultimately up to the ownership group of the site to manage the project and the upcoming renovation project pursuant to their schedules. That being said, in our last meeting with the ownership group, there was an openness to phase the project into two schedules. The logistics of how the two-phase project is going to be implemented is still up to the ownership group to determine.
咁雖然我哋有做咗好大幅度嘅努力啦，咁但係咧點樣去進行呢個工程，同埋佢哋點樣安排呢個時間咧，係完全咧係由呢個係物業嘅發展商嚟去做決定嘅。咁雖然係咁樣，咁我哋喺上一次最後嗰次同呢個係商家嘅見面啦，咁同時咧當時咧 我哋已經係有一個討論咧，就係話將呢個建築嘅工程咧就分成兩個時間段咁樣咧，但係咧點樣去執行呢個兩個時間段咧？仍然咧，我哋仲要去進一步去討論。
In terms of staff efforts, in terms of economic development, staff will continue to work or focus on relocation efforts for those businesses who are looking to stay in the city. So we have an effort in play now to assist many of the business owners and business tenants to find new locations within the city.
咁同時咧，我哋部門嘅工作人員咧，亦都係呢個努力去呢個幫助嗰啲商家等佢哋能夠係搬去第二度去進行佢哋嘅生意，但係咧保留喺呢個係呢個城市入邊嘅。
And so before I conclude, I'd like to turn it over to our city attorney's office for final remarks.
咁喺我未完結之前咧，我將呢個講台咧就交俾呢個我哋嘅市檢察長等佢係做一個最後嘅評語啦。
Good evening, folks. Before we open this item up for discussion,
喺我哋未開始去討論呢個話題之前，
I wish to make it clear that this is not intended and will not be a hearing on any decision of the Design Review Committee.
我要強調咧，我哋今日呢個討論咧係唔係去協助呢個係設計委員會去做佢哋嘅決定嘅。
The purpose of this item is only to discuss this matter amongst the City Council and to provide information to the public about the city's status in this matter.
咁今日呢個咁嘅討論咧，完全咧係等呢個市議會嘅會員咧係嚟去大家討論有關呢個咁嘅呢件事情，咁同時咧就向民眾咧係提供進一步嘅資料。
Furthermore, I wish to make it clear that while we understand there may be disputes between the tenants and the landlord, those disputes are civil in nature as between those parties, and the city will not be involved in those disputes.
咁同時我係明白呢個商家咧租客嘅商家咧，同埋呢個係物業嘅老闆咧係有呢個爭議嘅事情。咁樣嗰啲事情咧就係屬於民事嘅事情嚟㗎，咁我哋市議會咧唔可以參與去干涉呢啲咁嘅民事嘅事情。
That concludes my comments.
咁我係需要講咁多嘢啦。
So before I conclude, it is staff's recommendation that the City Council discuss the matter and allow for additional public comments, and then receive and file the report.
咁我而家係呢個我哋嘅部門就係建議啦，呢個市議會咧係去討論呢件事情，同埋咧係允許呢個民眾咧係提供佢哋嘅評語，然後咧就係去接收呢個係有關呢件事情係最後嘅報告。That's the problem. Nobody told me, even though I do speak Mandarin, however, nobody told me I had to translate into Mandarin.
你用广东话跟他讲一下，看他可不可以讲国语。你可不可以用这个国语翻译给他们听呢？
我尽我的能力吧，好不好？
OK， 那就请你，
普通话也可以。
如果可以的话，那么讲普通话的举手。哦 ，OK， 讲广东话的举手。
广东话的呢
？OK， 好来，这因为我想上一次是讲广东话的比较多。 所以呢，市府人员呢认为应该是讲广东话的，那想不到今天是讲普通话的比较多，没问题。如果需要翻译，我都可以帮着忙。OK， 我跟江务都可以啊。All right， so 你那请这位翻译 OK 要不要用普通话再给他们翻译，简单的翻译一次，好不好 ？OK， 好。Just please the translate is Mandarin. Just briefly, let them understand it. OK.
下一个讨论的项目呢，就是有关这个环球购物中心。OK. 同时是有关这个商家他们提出来的关切的事情。在10月4号，市议会的开会了，市议会已经听取了好多有关商家们他们所关切的事情，就是有关这个购物中心这个外贸的这个改善的一个工程，同时他们关切到他们可不可以继续在那边做生意，同时也关切到有关他们的这个就业的问题，有关这个装修的工程呢，在3月28号2022年，这个市政府的设计审核委员会已经批准了这个建筑的工程，其中包括了有大幅度的外贸的一个改善的工程，同时有这个改善这个购物中心的停车场，还有这个标志以及这个花草树木的改善。这个开会呢，通过这个视频，同时也通知了这个民众来去参加这个听证会的。然后这个听证会完毕之后呢，这个设计审核委员会已经一致通过了这个建筑的工程，同时在这个上诉的期间，没有人提出这个上诉，然后在我们批准了这个听证会之后呢，有很多这个关切的事情，就是那些商家跟我们部门的这个员工有多次见面，同时好让我们市政府了解有关这个建筑工程进行的方式，以及去说服这个发展商去把这个工程进行这个工程的方式来设计一个方式，好让对这个工程也对这个房客这个商家的这个房客有好处。虽然我们有这种努力，但是最后的决定还是由这个房东来做决定，怎么样去处理他们这个改善的工程，以及他们这个装修的工程。同时我们在最后一次的开会跟这个商家的这个开会，当时我们都是有一个很公开的一个讨论，就是决定把这个工程分成2个时段，但是怎么样方式去处理这个工程这个进度呢，完全是由这个房东来做这个最后的决定。同时我们这个部门呢会继续去帮助那些商家，他们如果想搬到别处，但是留在这个市政这个城市做生意的话，我们会向他们提出这个协助。到现在为止呢，我现在就把这个报告交给这个市政府的律师来做最后的评语。
Let our city attorney try disclosure again, and then you translate. 请你再听他用英文讲一遍，用国语再翻译一次，好不好 ？OK， 谢谢你。
Good evening. Once again, I want to make it clear that the decision that was made by the design committee months ago is not going to be reviewed tonight
那我要强调一点，因为1个月之前这个设计审核委员会所做的这个决定呢，我们今天不会讨论的。
This is not a hearing to reconsider that decision or to receive arguments about the propriety of that decision.
所以我们今天不会讨论有关这个设计审核委员会所做的决定是不是适当，同时我们不会做任何的评语有关他们做的决定。
We understand that there may be disputes between tenants and the landlord.
我明白这个房客跟这个房东之间有争议的事情。
However, those disputes are civil in nature between those parties, and the city will not be taking any action regarding those
但
disputes.
是房东跟房客之间的争议的事情呢，完全是民事事情，所以我们市议员呢，市议会的我们不会参与，也会不会做任何的这个行动。
Instead, this item is on the agenda as a discussion item so that the city council can receive a report that you just heard from the staff on the item and discuss the matter further themselves.
所以今天纯粹是由这个市议会来去讨论有关这个事情，同时去接收这个报告，同时好让一个机会让这个民众提供他们的这个意见。
That concludes my comments.
好，现在我讲完了。我们这个部门会建议这个市议会去讨论这个事情，同时允许民众有进一步的提出这个评语，同时去接受这个报告。
OK， 谢谢。这基本上应该大家应该可以听国语的，应该可以听得懂吧？哈，可以吗 ？OK， 谢谢。Does any council member have a factual question for staff to clarify the report? Chief City Clerk, do we have any public comments received by email?
No comments, Mayor.
Okay, so is it this one, right? Okay, so first public comment speak. It's Dave Barala.
And Mr. Mayor, well, Mr. Barella comes up, excuse me. Just want to remind the audience that we'll be allowing 6 minutes for comments tonight. That is our normal 3-minute time period, and then 3 minutes for the translator to translate.
今天你们发言的话，我们允许你6分钟，然后3分钟要你讲，然后3分钟要这个翻译。
Thank you, council members.
好，谢谢。
Let me start off with this.
我首先要开始。
I submitted a written opposition. It
我
was
提出一个
uploaded
书
on
面的
the
这个反对。
on the website, so
同
I'm
时也
hoping that
放在这
the
个
council
网
members
络
have that.
好让希望你们市议员已经
And if
收
they
到
haven't, I encourage them to please look at that.
如果你还没看到的话，我建议你去看一下。
It's not my
我提出来这个反
intent
对
to
我
just
这目的
repeat
不是想
what
去重
was
复
put in writing.
我这个书面提出来的反对。
But I did want
但
to
是
certainly highlight
我要
some of the issues
要
and concerns that are
要
stated
讲
in
一
the
下
opposition.
重要的要点。
First of all, I'm a
首先
spokesman on behalf of the coalition
我
of
是代表这个
most of the
coalition
tenants in the shopping plaza.
就是有关这个
I'm
购
sorry.
物中心的
Excuse me. Mayor?
一个
Mr. Mayor?
主席
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt because I think that maybe one sentence and one translation will be much easier for everyone to understand.
So okay, just one statement then
Okay.
translate, not
Okay.
simultaneously, right? Okay.
Consecutive.
Yeah. Okay.
You don't want
不是
to
同
talk
不
over each other.
刚刚翻译，我想他是想要做同声翻译了哈。OK， 谢谢那个翻译哈，那你就 one by one.
One
OK，
sentence or 2 sentences. is
OK。
I'm trying to accommodate the translation. Would it be better if I just speak in a certain section and then pause?
Did you have the writing? If you have writing, maybe you can let him to translate
Well,
later.
I do.
Yeah.
I do have it in writing.
Okay.
But I'm only going to paraphrase it. I'm just not going to, it's just not a speech
Yeah,
that
well-
I'm just going to read.
Okay.
So yes, Mr. Barella, just speak for a few sentences and then pause, and the translator can translate after that.
Maybe a couple of sentences.
All right,
Maybe okay.
very well. As I stated in the written opposition,
我在我的这个书面的这个反
there's
对
5 main categories
就是
that I address.
我有几样的东西我要去讲一下。
Let me speak a little more before you translate.
Okay.
All right. So
Okay. I think maybe suggest Mr. Barra, maybe you use the sentence and then have a signal to let the translate. Maybe that's a.
Is it
necessary
to have it translated? I'll let you know. So the written submission is in 5 sections, 5 parts.
那我
There's
提出来的这个书面的反对是分为5个部分。
2 parts are procedurally,
2个部分是有关这个程序方面的问题。
and the 5 remaining parts of substantively.
那然后其他的这个部分呢，就是有关重要的事情。
This goes hand in hand what the city attorney said in that what was not going to
Do we need a translation or?
Well, the comments are addressed to the city council, so I don't know that we need, I thought the purpose of, I would think the purpose of the translator would be to help people who don't speak English to be able to address the city council.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe let Mr. Barra you finish the statement, and just let the translator, Mr. Translator, to help to just briefly and translate to the memory. Is it okay? Afterwards. All right. Afterwards. Okay. Okay. We just conclude use this way to translate. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Let me start again. I'll try and be brief, even if I'm being repetitive. I submitted the written opposition that I hope the council members has been able to see it. It was uploaded on the website, but even if they haven't, at some point, I hope they can. It's not my intent to just read it verbatim. That doesn't do any good. It's not productive, but I certainly wanted to bring out some of the highlights that I thought were addressed in the written opposition. So the focus is in 2 main points. Number 1, some procedural defects, and then what the tenants perceive as substantive defects. The procedural defects are really whether or not true, accurate notice of the hearing on March 28th was presented to the tenants. And I would submit that it was not. There were a number of notices that were rejected, number of notices that were not received. When I say rejected, they were returned back to the city. I've seen the envelopes. And a number of notices just were not in the mailbox. The suspicion is that someone on behalf of management went into the mailbox and took out some of these notices. Now, it's a suspicion. It's not an accusation. There's no proof of that. But the remaining fact is that a number of these tenants were not aware of the March 28th hearing, so they weren't able to attend and weren't able to voice their objections or make their comments. That's number one.
Okay, let me, may the interpreter translate?
No, I think just let him to finish everything.
I
Yeah.
won't be able to memorize everything because it's just a long presentation. I mean, even though he had the script, but I don't think he was reading from the script. He was just summarizing what he's written down on the script.
So you want to translate it right now? No? Okay. So audience say it's okay, so just go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. 你们觉得这没有翻译可以吗？可以吗？啊，这同意的话，我就让他继续讲下去英文，好不好 ？OK， 这样的话大家好不好 ？OK， 这样省得这个再来回了。OK，Yeah，Thank you.
Okay. As the city attorney said, I apologize, I don't have his name, but as the city attorney said, what will not occur at this meeting or even subsequent actions is a discussion about the private lease agreements that occurred between management and the individual tenants, because that's a private matter. That's true. They are private matters, and we're not asking the city council to intercede in any of the agreements. But once the ownership of the plaza submits a plan to the city and wants the city to approve their plan for renovation, and now they're asking favors of the city, that request must be scrutinized. And the way that the ownership and management deals with the tenants, separate and apart from the actual lease agreements or what is contained in the lease agreements, that needs to be scrutinized. The way the tenants are treated and the way the proposed plan is going to affect the tenants needs to be taken into consideration before certain things are approved. City Council also said that the decision of what was made on the March 28th hearing, meaning the approval of the plan, is not going to be reconsidered, but it can be discussed. I would submit that a discussion without action is meaningless. So if the ultimate decision is we're not going to reconsider the plan's going to not be disturbed, but we're going to talk about it, what good is a discussion amongst the council members going to do for the tenants? It's almost a token appeasement. There's no if there's no possibility of action, if it's already written in stone and nothing's going to be changed, what's the purpose? Certainly we can come and we can voice our disagreement, but if it's not going to be heard and no action is going to be taken, then it becomes somewhat meaningless and superfluous. With respect to the proposal, notwithstanding city attorney's comments that the decision has already been made with respect to the proposed plan, what I wanted to highlight is that what needed to be taken into consideration and what still needs to be taken into consideration is that you have to look objectively as well as subjectively to the proposed plan and how that coincides with two things. Number one, the San Gabriel City Plan, and number two, the Valley Boulevard specific plan, and whether or not the approval of the plan as it exists is going to be in conflict with what the intent was or is in the San Gabriel City Plan and the Valley Boulevard plan. So with respect to the the San Gabriel City Plan, the goals of that particular plan as it's set forth is to demonstrate...
That's time, Mr. Mayor.
Time is up.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Time's up. Maybe,
Time is up?
Yeah, so maybe if you still want to finish, is it 1 more minute, so you think it's okay?
Yeah.
Okay, 1 more minute, okay.
Okay. So the city plan has 2 main targets. Number 1, to increase the numbers of businesses and help current businesses and promote existing businesses. The existing plan isn't going to do that. It's contrary to what the goals are of the San Gabriel plan. With respect to the Valley plan, the specific plan, the goal of that plan is to cooperate with the property and business owners and to help recruit and retain healthy businesses in the neighborhood. That is not going to be achieved with the proposed plan that's been submitted. And the proposed plan that has been submitted, the discussion, or at least the interpretation of it, is that it's all cosmetic, it's all exterior improvements, it's parking lot, it's facade. That's not necessarily true. There is going to be substantial reconstruction of the interior offices, buildings, restaurants, or what have you. So I think that the plan as stated is misleading to that extent.
Okay, thank you. So it's time's up. So, is it need to translate? 你们需要翻译这一段吗？要不要翻 ？OK， 你们鼓掌是要为他讲话鼓掌，还是要翻译的鼓掌？如果翻译，我就请那个翻译再帮你们翻译，简单的翻译一下。如果不需要的话，那我们就下一个，好不好 ？Is it okay? Okay, next one, right? Okay, all right. 谢谢那个翻译员哈。Next one, it's Ben Hong. Ben. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
需要翻译。
哦，那个需要翻译哈。OK。
行。你要广东话还是要？
这个讲广东话，讲国语。
广东话好啲。广东话 OK 吗？Good evening, City Mayor and City Council.
City Mayor and City Councils.
我是那个 Five Star Seafood Restaurant.
I am the supervisor of 5 Star.
Yeah. 我的餐馆有18000多次。
My restaurant encompasses 18,000 square feet.
我们有80几位员工。
We have more than 80 employees.
3月28号的公听会。
So, with respect to the hearing conducted on March the 18th.
March the 28th.
Oh, March the 28th.
我们没有收到
We did
任何
not
信件。
receive any notification whatsoever.
我们的员工也没有看到任何的 poster。
And neither none of our employees saw any poster
现在
regarding the hearing.
现在我有一个真实的发生在我身上的故事，
So
讲给
I
那个
have an actual story that happened to me. I want to relate to you about.
在去年6月份，
So last June, last year,
我像以往一样，像以前一样，通知我房东，我要5年的 option。5 year option。
5 years 什么？
听我，在去年6月份，
我知道。
我跟以前一样打电话通知我的房东，我要 option。
option。
即要續約，要租約。
要退租啊？
唔係，我要租約。
你要租約？
Yeah， 我要 option，5 year option。
Well,
to exercise the option.
Like I have done in the past, I notified the landlord
that I will need a 5-year lease. You want to
Exercise the
upgrade it to
5 years
5 years?
additional
I have
lease
5-year option. Continue 5-year
Okay.
option.
Oh, I have a 5-year option.
Continue.
To continue the lease.
OK。房东的管理人员答应了我。
The management department of the landlord promised me or
他承诺了。
and make the promise that
第1年
the first year
10% off.
The first year rent would be 10%
off
off
because of COVID.
because of COVID.
我到目前为止，
So as of the present time,
他说要把那个租约送给我，到目前为止我还没收到。
so he said he would present me with the new lease, but as of the present time, I have not received it.
在今年的每一个月，我基本上都是付了90% 的租金。
So every month in this year, I paid about 90% of my the rent.
但他没有说任何东西。
However, I did not receive anything from the landlord.
在今年6月份
And in June of this year,
我收到了一份管理公司来的信，
I received a letter from the management company
说我欠他的钱，我违约了。
telling me that I owed money to the landlord.
违约了，违约，这我还有啊。
That I breached the lease agreement.
但是因为他换了 management， 所以我只能把那个10% 的租金交给他，6个月的10% 租金交给他。
So because they changed the management, so I have no choice but to pay the additional 10% rent amount for 6 months.
在上个月的6号
And then in last month, the 6th of last month,
又换了一个管理人员来跟我开会。
so they changed to another staff of the management department to conduct a meeting with me.
我们提到10%的租金这个问题上，他承认了，也说他有在他的那个电脑上看到，他会退还给我们。
So he admitted that he could see the 10% reduction in the rent on the computer. So he promised me to return that 10% rent to me.
前几天又过了前几天，
So a few days ago,
我收到房东的律师信。
I received a letter from the lawyers, from the landlord's lawyer.
他说 10% 是给我维修的，1年的10% 是给我维修的，而不是 COVID 的，他不会退了。
So that letter tells me that the 10% is for the
remodel 不是叫做维修。
for maintenance charge.
It's not
and
for
then
it's
and
not
will
for
not
the
be returned to me.
我觉得很生气。
So when I received such letter, I was very upset.
为什么一次又一次的骗我？
So why the landlord repeatedly cheated me?
说给我租约没送来，说给我10%，说
So
又说我违约。
Never deliver the lease like the landlord had promised, and also told me about the reduction, but that never happened. And now instead they accuse me of breaching the contract.
说现在商场要装修，
So
只
right
是
now
说外面。
the landlord is talking about making exterior improvement to the shopping center.
outside right， 但是他对我来说，他要我关1年以上的时间来给他 remodel。
However, they told me they require me to close my business for 1 year to allow them to undergo with the construction project.
可能所以说，如果我们餐馆 关掉1年的时间，我们有80几个 employee， 还有这么多 customers， 那我们的损失有多大？
So if my restaurant is required to close for 1 year, and then we are talking about 80 some employees, and also we have many customers. You can tell what kind of a huge loss that we would suffer.
如果我们关掉1年，我们根本没有办法重新再经营这个餐厅。
So if we close down the restaurant for 1 year, it's impossible for me to restart the business or go back into the restaurant.
我们餐厅的价值就等于0了。
So our restaurant value would be reduced to 0.
对，我就恳请在座的市长、市议员为我们讨一个公道。
So I'm urging the city mayor and also the council members to obtain the fairness for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, 谢谢。Okay, next one it's K 王凯是吧？王克。Next one is K Win. Okay, for the.
Good evening, council members and mayor, vice mayors. My mom runs the restaurant at the second floor of the Plaza, and I'm just here to tell everybody that before the public hearing of last year or this year, the first public hearing about this remodel, we didn't get any notifications, not emails, not phone calls. We check our mailbox every day. We don't have the letters. we didn't get it. 所以我的妈妈在2楼千东广场2楼开了一家餐馆，然后我们就是在第1次市政会开会之前，我们没有收到任何通知关于那个装修的。谢谢。I finish.
Thank you. 谢谢。Next one is Jimmy Ha. 下一位是 Jimmy Ha.
Good evening, Mayor Ding and all the City Council, ladies and gentlemen. Let me put it out, just a second, please. Okay, for my understanding, most of the tenants do not know about the March 28 public hearing. I just want to make sure that they do not know March 28 hearing.
你们所有这里的人，3月28号他们有个 hearing， 你们知道吗？
See? Okay. And I found out the shopping plaza, not exterior remodel. And the landlord asking every one of us move out before January 31st, 2023. We're talking about only 2 months away. Remember, you move out not just because you move out today. A lot of things we have to think. A lot of people we have to looking for a new job. No such plan exists to our tenant knowledge. Any other intent development of the site would require entitlement application and multiple public hearing from the city before such a plan could be considered. I seriously ask all the city council, look into this, because when the business is closed, hundreds of people in our store will lose their job immediately. And also the family of all the employees will be affected. And the city government will also have no tax revenue. If necessary, the city of city of St. Gabriel or the city council member do not do anything. And then, if necessary, and then all our tenants will inform the city of the state government official and the media in Los Angeles, all newspaper and TV station. I mean it. I'm not just kidding, okay?
and to let them know that declare what we have suffered in our beautiful city. We call beautiful city of St. Gabriel. Is that true? I don't know. Let you guys figure it out. 我有时间我翻译一下中文啊，让你都听不懂英文的。我说，据我所知呢，大部分的住户呢完全不知道3月28的公证听证会。我发现购物广场并没有进行外观的改造，房东呢做大量的改造，而且要我们呢2023年1月31号以前全部搬出去。我们住户完全不知道这样的计划。在考虑这样的计划之前呢，任何其他预算期的发展部呢，都需要经过城市全力申请和多次的公证会才可以批准，不是你们所想象的一次公证会，这是你们认为，可是事实上不是这样子的。我郑重要求所有市议员严重的调查，详细的调查。如果一旦我们全部停业了，我们的商店的数百人呢，马上将会失业，成千上万的家庭将受到影响。市政府呢，也没有任何的税收。如市议会 St. Gabriel 市议会不做任何的行动，我说真的，我们将会通知州政府的官员，以及洛杉矶所有的报纸、电视台、媒体，宣布我们在美丽的圣盖博士所受到的痛苦和我们的遭遇的那个不公，好不好 ？Thank you.
Thank you， 谢谢。Next one, Vivian Chen.
Mayor Ding, City Attorney, and City Council members. I'm here today. I'll make it really short. Today is the first time I heard about the whole plan. I guess we did not get, first of all, we didn't get any notification for the hearing like everybody else. Second of all, I think there's no attempt to communicate in any way. Like up till this day, I still didn't get any negotiation, whatever, letter from them to explain what's going on our end. So that's why everybody is so upset with the situation. Because, any project like this scale we're 10 existing tenants. We have every single right to participate the hearings to express our concern. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
the other one is a jewelry store. This 10 years, I already paid more than 3 million, the rent. And the previous 10 years is more than 1 million rent. And for these 22 years, even the economic going very bad, like a COVID timing, the employee doesn't want to work. They want to stay in the home. I close the door, but we still pay the rent. I insist to pay if I not pay the rent, how can we still live the store here? But now the situation, I feel this is not fair for us. We doing the bad time, difficult time, we still pay the sales tax to improve the economic. Now it's not fair for also the customers. Every day the customers ask, when you gonna be moved? When you gonna be closed? Also, during the pandemic, I do the remodel. I spend $400,000 to remodel all the brand new store. I think everybody see. And then now, I didn't get any didn't get any notice since the last, I just see the guy say that we're gonna be closed in January. I first time heard we're gonna close on the January, because I never get any notice. Nobody contacted to me. So again, this is not fair for the tenants and all the customers. That's it. Thank you.
谢谢。Next one is Jessica, I think Long Xing Ji, right?
Thank you, give me a chance. Thank you so much. I'm Jessica from Long Chinese restaurant Long Xing Ji and number 1 juicy dumpling. I'm owner. Thank you, give me this a chance. Oh, I need a transfer, please. Thank you. I have the lease for 2 years ago. This 我的 lease， 我的那个 lease 已经2年半之前就到期了。
So my lease expired 2.5 years ago.
然后我要签约嘛，他们就说找各种理由吧，经理不在了，然后要劝。
So I wanted to sign another lease or extend the expired lease. However, they use all kind of excuse, such as, oh, the manager was not there, to not sign any lease with me.
然后等了，让我等一等了。
And then they kept telling me to wait.
就等到了 COVID-19 一直到现在，然后就是 month by month.
I have waited since 2019 until the present time.
直到现在，然后我没有收到。
I have not received.
没有收到，就是直到9月份的17号吧，我收到了一个 email。
I have not received any notification until September 17, when I received an email.
告诉我的通知的这些明细，但是之前都是口头跟我会面过，说过这些事情，也是今年的事，而不是2年前，然后一直就不签约。
So, and telling me about the lease, and then, but all along they had not put anything in writing. They only told me verbally that, oh, we're gonna sign the lease with you, and so forth.
我们在这里，加上之前的 owner， 我们已经有11年，经营了11年。
Counting the time that we had with the previous owner, I have rented the place for close to 11 years now.
Yes， 我们创造了这个也不是说全部，我们创造了部分的盛世的省该部 的财富哈，我
So
们传统广场的
I
各
wouldn't say I
个
created
商家。
the wealth for the city of San Gabriel, but at least I contributed some of San Gabriel city's wealth.
我们也创造了我们这有几十个商家，创造了很多税收和收入。
And also, we have more than several tens of business owners who have contributed tremendously to the city's revenue.
So 我们也创造了传统广场的繁荣与昌盛。
So we had also contributed to the prosperity and the viableness of the Focus Center, Plaza.
我们也争取了几百位员工的工作岗位，
And
我们
we
全
have
体
also
几十家。
created several hundreds of job opportunities for several hundred employees.
我们没日没夜的工作在这里，把这里当成我们自己的家来创造它。
So night and day we work there, and then we treated the place like a home, our own place.
我们也是定期的、准时的交房租的。
So we also paid rent on time.
而且我们需要我们做什么，我们从来没有说拖延的或者怎样，我们就会马上立刻行动。
And also, whenever the landlord requires us to do, we would do it right away, and without any delay.
无论是房顶上、地下的，我们都包括了，而且那个
And including everything, like maintenance, 对吗？是 ，OK.
然后就是包括墙里头的一些设备，都是我们来维修的。
And also including some of the fixtures inside the store that we also provide the maintenance to.
19年的3月通知我们，让我们的冻柜、冷藏柜没有丝毫的坏损，他让我们重新修建。我们好几家都要重新修建，投资多少万进去的。
So in March of 2019, the landlord notified us that we needed to renovate or to repair all the freezers and refrigeration. That notice was given to several business owners at the plaza. Even though those freezers and refrigeration, they were still functional, there was no problem.
Thank you. 如果当初19年的时候他通知我们全体人员，我想就都会搬走了，它就会成一个空城，是不是？
So if at that time we all decided to move away, then the plaza would become an empty plaza.
所以他就month by month， 就是每个月一个月的这样让我们交，一直把我们拖延到现在，突然通知我们让我们撤离。
So they each month they try to delay all this until the present time.
时间到了。
When they told us that we needed to move out.
我们没有收到任何公开的通知，我们什么会议啊，什么都没有。
Never received any notification regarding the CD hearing, nor any meeting.
这个改建的机会是他们的，可是是不是应该由我们知情权？
不过时间到了，我再给你1分钟好了，好不好？你就1分钟。
我们不想
OK. Movement to the plaza was the owner's decision. However, at least our business owners have input.
而且市政厅的那个你们接到的是外部装修，没有接到我们内部装修，让我们内部全部清理干净，我们要花几十万呢。
So and
我们
also
小资企
the
业。
owner is talking about the exterior improvement, but we are not talking about the interior construction. So, however, nonetheless, we are required to vacate the stores. That would cost a lot of money.
是的，我们不接受合理的报告，可是呢， 我们是要，sorry， 我们接受合理的报告，可是不包括欺诈行为。
Even though we do accept, reasonable report, however, we do not accept any fraudulent activities.
Thank you, thank you.
谢谢。
之前知道的事情，他本来应该要早一点跟我们大街的商街一起
So we are
商量。
not regarding the construction project. It was not something that came up. As a matter of fact, it was brought up a couple years ago, but they had never discussed that with us.
因为我在这里也做了13年了。
So I had already conducted business at the Plaza for 13 years.
那如果要装修，你提前跟我们大街说，
So-
那我们就不会疫情再继续在这里这么困难，
So
交2年
if
房租了。
the owner intended to do some construction or improvement, they have to notify us in advance. So it would not put us in a difficult situation in the era of pandemic.
我只想告诉大家，我到今天还没有收到
So
到任
I
何
just
通
want
知
to
要
tell
装修。
everybody that as of today, I have not received any notification about the hearing whatsoever.
那就这样了，
So
谢谢。
that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you，谢谢。下一位是明祥。
各位议员跟市长好。
So all the council members and the mayor, good evening.
我在传统已经租他们的，大概已经在那里15年了。
So I have rendered a place in the Focus Plaza for about 15 years.
我有2个 store 在那里，是美容的。
I have 2 cosmetic stores in the plaza.
在疫情期间，我们这个行业不能营业。
So during pandemic, in our field, we could not conduct any business.
因为是脸对脸的服务。
Because our business is like face-to-face service with the customer.
可是，在这么困难的情况下，我们还是努力的把那个房租交给他们了。
Under this difficult situation, nonetheless, we continue paying rent to the landlord.
而且这个房租呢，我们不管借政府钱还是我们自己refinance，都是1分钱不欠的全给他了。
So regardless if we obtain a loan or obtain a loan from the city or from other resource, we still pay the rent without any 1 penny less.
因为我们2个店呢，一个是今年满租约，一个是2020年就满租约了。
So we have 2 stories, one of which the lease should expire this year, and another store lease was expired in 2020.
可是房东，我们从来没有接到任何房东的通知要改造这个 Plaza 什么东西，我们都完全不知道。
And we had never received any notification from the landlord that the landlord needed to remodel the plaza.
可是我们还是很努力的，就是他告诉我们就是想租约的时候，是只骗我们说，我们暂时是 office 改组，以后才就是过了一段时间才帮你 renew the lease 吧，这样。
So when it came time for us to renew the lease, they told us that, because the office was making a reformation, and then the extension of the lease would be taking place later on.
他想骗我们交房租，交到最后的就是1天，然后呢？
That's the tactic that they were using to make us to pay rent until the last day.
因为我们到现在都不知道我们要搬走，我们只是大家互相的，就是商家才知道我们需要搬。
So as of the present time, we didn't know that we needed to move out until we had a discussion with other business owners.
所以现在我们自己觉得就非常不合理。
So we feel that it's very unreasonable for the landlord to do such thing.
而且他现在已经告诉我们，准确的告诉我们，如果我们1月份不搬，2月1号开始，我们的房租必须涨到150%。
So and they had already informed us that if we would not move out by February 1st, our rent would go up by 150%.
所以我希望各位就是议员跟市长什么帮帮我们这个小商家，不知怎么做现在。
So I am hoping that the mayor and also council members would help us as small business owners.
谢谢，谢谢。
Thank you.
Thank you.
谢谢，谢谢。So, okay. Is there any more the public comment?
No more cards, Mayor.
No more public comment. So we want to start discussion, or you want a break? Is it in the council member need a break? Okay, so we need a health break. And 各位，希望你们就是我们也要休息一下。那么请大家继续留下来听我们的讨论，好不好？如果因为刚刚你们也讲了一些事情嘛，哈，那希望你们能够留下来听一下，哈。Okay. So yeah, I just talk. So everybody just stay here. We take a health break, 5 minutes, and come back to discuss. Okay. So we come back. It's I think maybe 8:55. Okay. We, the meeting reassessed again. And right now, it's time for the council discussion. Who would like to start it?
I'll start, Mayor.
Okay, Councilmember Menchakas.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank all the business owners for being here and sharing their stories. Some of them we heard at the previous meeting, or 2 meetings ago, and then some more tonight. So they're definitely very impactful, and so thank you for having the courage to come up and just share, because I know it's so personal to everyone. I'm just going to start with some questions, and then I'll do my conclusion. I wanted to ask staff. My first question is, in the report, it talks about having some relocation efforts being done in the process. How effective has that been?
Okay, let me see. Everybody understand it? 你们都听得懂吗？需要翻译吗？需要 Okay, all right. So yeah, I let the translate to translate the question. Okay.
先要问这个部门的这个员工有关，他讲过，他们已经做了努力，帮助那些商家，他们要搬到别处，但是还保留在这个城市的这个他们所做的工作是怎么样？
So the discussions with respect to relocation efforts have been slow. A few weeks ago, I did visit the site, walked around the site, handed my business card out, with the intention of not only sharing aspects of the project, but also reaching out to help with any relocation efforts that they've had, or any questions in general. I did receive a couple of phone calls back with that effort. I know that I've been helping Jimmy, for example, in his efforts to relocate to a new spot, and we've had several meetings already to help with that. This morning I received word that there's another tenant of this center looking to relocate to another address here in the city. So the efforts are unfortunately very slow. There are some obstacles, of course, with fitting the spaces or the needs of some of these businesses to existing vacancies. Some of the vacancies that we have are, for example, are too small for some of the tenants. Others are too large. And some would require entitlements for the new uses. So all in all, there are obstacles, but certainly the efforts are there.
有关我们做的努力，去帮助商家他们搬到别处，这个我们的努力这个进行比较慢，但是几个礼拜之前呢，我去了这个购物中心，然后把我的这个名片交给那些商家，同时我有收到1、2个电话，有关商家想要去搬到别处，同时我们现在已经在帮助 Jimmy 去搬到另外一个地方，同时今天早上有另外一个商家有打电话给我。 但是我们的努力进度比较慢，但是因为我们也碰到很多的这个阻碍，同时还有我搬到新的地方，可能有些地方就比较小，有些地方比较大，所以呢就是有一定的难度。
Okay, okay, actually, okay, okay, audience, okay, 你们这个好，还是先尊重我们 councilman 问的问题，让他问完以后，你们想要问问题再来 public comments. So is it after they finish and we still have to give to chance? They have still have chance for the public comments?
No.
No, okay. So I talking about just let our council member to ask a question first, so otherwise, yeah, okay, then we can do later, all right?
Okay, thank you. My next question is, several of the tenants at this meeting and the previous meeting talked about doing a lot of improvements, a lot of tenant improvements, and if they are being asked to move, Are they going to get reimbursed at any level for those tenant improvements?
然后今天有好几个这个房客，还有上一次有一些房客告诉我们说，这个房东要在这个铺位的做大幅度的这个改善，然后他们要求房东要求他们搬走。那我想问一下，如果这种情况之下，这个房客会不会得到一些赔偿呢？
In one of our meetings with the ownership, we discussed that, in fact, and I don't want to put too much detail into this because they haven't really focused on or determined the best course of action with relocation efforts, but they did express a desire to look to relocate certain businesses as well as try to fund that effort as well, but none of that has been sort of formalized yet from their standpoint.
So none of the tenants been notified of that possibility?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
那我已经跟这个房东这个讨论过有关这个搬到别处的这个事情，然后呢，这个房东有表示说他们会帮助，同时他们可能会提供一些经费，好让就是商家可以搬到别的地方。 但是详细的这个细节呢，我们还不知道。
Okay. Was the landlord invited to this meeting tonight?
Our last meeting, we spoke about them attending this meeting. They chose to not attend the meeting. I'm not exactly sure if they're here in the audience, but they decided not to attend.
那今天晚上我们有没有邀请这个房东？ 代表人到这个今天这个讨论呢，因为我们上一次有邀请过他们，但是他们决定不要参加今天的这个讨论，但是当然我不知道房东有没有代表人在这个会议上。
Okay. So my understanding is that Focus Plaza, Universal, Shopping Plaza, whatever you want to call it, I call it Focus, that it's been very profitable, but that the ownership wants to do this facelift to be able to compete with, for example, Santa Anita Mall. Is that the case? Is that what is what's starting this?
I apologize. That is what they expressed to us in our meetings.
那我明白，这个房东要做最大幅度的这个外贸的一个改良，就是他们的目的就是要跟其他的这个购物中心来做竞争，对吗？譬如说这个 Santa Anita 那个 shopping 这个购物中心，没错，这个是他们的目的。
Okay. And then with this meeting that took place on March 28th, public hearing with the Planning Commission, these notifications, did they come from the city or from the ownership, or who was responsible for getting these notifications to the tenant?
It is the responsibility of the owner to provide the mailing labels to the city, and we essentially put those labels on the envelopes, stuff the envelopes with a notice, and mail them out.
那有关在28号这个委员会开会的这个通知，是谁的责任？是不是是市政府的责任通知这个商家吗？或者是房东的责任？这个是房东的责任，但是我们负责把他的通知书放在这个信封，然后寄给每一位这个房客。
So can you explain why none of the tenants received those notifications?
那如果是这样的话，你可不可以解释一下，为什么没有一位这个房客收到这个通知呢？
I mean, it could be a variety of issues, postal service delays, but it's really hard to answer that question. I don't know the makeup of how the tenants receive mail at the actual location. In looking at the attachment in the staff report with the mailing labels, it does show that each individual tenant, as far as a unit, was sent a mailer or sent a notice, As far as why it did not make it to that specific unit, I could not answer that question.
我不可以回答这个问题，可能有几个原因，因为我们也不知道这个邮政局他们的服务是怎么样，同时我也不知道这些房客是怎么方式收到这个邮件的，我也不知道是什么原因，这个房客也没有收到这些通知，但是我看到这个信封，这个有写下每一个单位的房客这个地址。
Okay. And so now the landlord, owner, it appears is still not communicating with the tenants, but they're communicating with us, and now they're telling us that they're considering doing a two-part phase as opposed to shutting everything down. And I don't know what that looks like. Does that mean they do half of it while the other one stays intact? Then once that's done, then they go over to the next side. I mean, what is that looking like, and why isn't there communication?
我知道这个房东他们决定把这个建筑的工程分成2个阶段，但是我不知道怎么样的两个阶段，是不是有一半就是搬走，然后另外一半留下来等候接一半的搬走的这一半工程完毕之后。 然后搬回去，然后另外一半的才搬走，是不是这种的分开2个阶段呢？
So what's being considered by the applicant or the owner of the property is essentially phasing out in terms of scheduling, meaning starting a certain section of the structure during a period of time, and not starting the second stage of construction until that first phase is done. The details of that are not yet formalized by the owner. It was just an idea that was brought up. We've had discussions with the ownership group to consider not so much of a phasing project, but allowing the tenants to still remain in operation during construction. And that's been done before. I've seen that done before. Logistics, of course, have to be figured out in terms of path of travel, ADA requirements, being able to access a parking lot, being able to provide path to the storefront. These are all challenges that the ownership is looking at the moment.
那我们有讨论过，基本上这个建筑的工程会从一个部分开始，然后呢，一直要等到这个部分完成之后，然后再开始第2个部分，但是详细的这个步骤呢，我们都还没有知道，但是有很多的这个问题，我们首先要解决，譬如说这个 ABA 有没有这个规定一定要有一个通道去这个商店，还有其他的规定，所以详细的这个细节我们还没有讨论到。
Let me go back to that notification, the March 28th meeting. I forgot one more question. So when the meeting took place, there was not one tenant that showed up. Is that correct?
There was a neighbor who showed up at the meeting and expressed some concerns about a adjoining wall in terms of its deterioration, and that was about it.
So the neighbor.
按照我所明白，那次开会的没有一位房客参加这个开会，对吗？当时出席这个开会的有这个邻居这个商店，他们就是他们参加这个开会。 这个目的就是讨论有关这个墙壁，他们共有的墙壁。
So the notification, it was multiple languages?
No, it was only in English.
那是不是你们的通知书有多项的语言呢？没有，纯粹是英语。
Now I thought we were supposed to be doing multiple languages when we did notifications.
法律规定，你们这个通知书一定要双语言的。
I'm not aware of a policy as far as design review or planning commission goes where notices have to go out in multiple languages. I understand for a council meeting that agendas are posted in multiple languages, but in the case of a DRC or planning commission hearing, we have the policy of just in English at this moment.
我不知道这个计划部门这个开会的，他们是不是要把他的通知书做这个双语言的通知？我只知道。 你们市议会开会的 这个议程一定要上演。
So the notifications, the reason the neighbors showed up was because it includes the neighborhood as well as the tenants.
Correct.
Okay, so when nobody showed up except for that one neighbor, there wasn't any kind of questions from the staff or anything that came up, why isn't there interest from the
我
tenants?
明白这个开会的时候只有邻居的一个商店，这个参加这个开会，因为他们有关切到这个公用的场地，所以但是没有一个房客出现。那你们有没有去询问为什么这样子没有一个房客这个参加这个开会呢？
Now, I wasn't in attendance at that meeting where this project was approved. I could not speak for staff in terms of them questioning why there wasn't anyone in the audience. Once the notice went out, which is March 17th, I believe, or at least that's when it was published in the newspaper, the day of the meeting is at that point essentially is too late to question whether notices were in fact provided to the property owners or tenants. Our obligation is to notify the occupants and property owners within a 500-foot radius. That was accomplished, and that essentially satisfied our obligation per code.
当时我没有询问这个我们部门的工作人员为什么没有一位这个房客出现，因为我们已经满足了这个法律的规定，我们已经在这个报纸上面有这个登载那一天的这个开会的事情，同时我们已经满足了这个法律的要求，通知了所有在500英尺半径之内的所有受影响的房客。
So that's into my questions, but let me just summarize where I'm coming from. Number one, with regards to our code, we need to make an update. So it does go out in multiple languages, just like our agenda does. I believe it also should be published not only in English speaking, but a Chinese speaking, whether it's the World Journal or Epic Times. But that is our demographics right now, and I think that notification is just a piece of paper that nobody understands, and so I think that's a deficiency we have in our process right now. So I'd like to bring that back to update our code, get the cost of what it would cost to put it into a second newspaper, so we know that our residents and our business owners are being properly notified.
改变一下我们这个市政府的这个规定，凡是有这种的通知，一定要双语言发出去。
Okay. So, Focus Plaza, for those of us who've been around for a long time, and I am a business owner too, not in San Gabriel, but I am a business owner in downtown LA. We've invested a lot of money in our location too, so it hits a chord when I hear how some of you have just done so much to make your business successful. I have heard from being here in San Gabriel from 2 years to 20 years. We have probably over 100, 200 years altogether of so many of you that have been here. And you have been so loyal to us as a city. You have provided jobs for our community. You have provided taxes. Focus Plaza is not just a San Gabriel destination. I know people coming from Ventura, Roland Heights, everywhere to come to Focus Plaza. It's a place that so many people feel that it's a family. All of you have been a family. You have all been so loyal to us. And I think it's up to us as council. We need to make some level of commitment too, because you've been loyal to us. So I would like to propose that we do some kind of plan where we can protect you, we can support you, but I don't want to say this is the end. There has to be something we can do as a city. I don't have the answers. I am not an attorney, but there has to be something we can do, because I am very disappointed that the landlord is not here. He should be here. Apparently from what the conversations has been, there's been changes in management. There hasn't been any kind of communication. and it's not a good practice for any business. And so I'd like to try to see if my colleagues would agree with me that we need to have a plan, because I don't want you to feel that you're alone, because you've been alone this whole time. All of a sudden, this is mushrooming, all of a sudden we're here. This is our second meeting. And the more you talk about it, the more troubling it is for me to hear your stories. And I can just, it's hard. It's hard to listen to your stories. And I just could not do anything. So I would like staff to come up with a plan. What can we do along with our attorneys to support you, to be there, and somehow do you justice, because this has been, it's just been very troubling.
Yeah, 我很明白你的处境，因为我本人也是一个这个有我自己做生意，虽然我的铺位并不是在这个城市，但是我很了解你们这个做的努力，怎么样做了很多的工作，令到你这个生意能够成功，因为你对于这个城市很忠心，你们向这个城市提供了这个就业的机会，也带来了这个税收到这个城市来，所以你们有很多这个商家，无论是做了2年或者20年，在这个购物中心，我很了解你们的处境，所以我认为我们这个市议会，我们要设计一个计划，能够去保护你们，去支持你们，所以我会跟我的议会的同事，大家商议，怎么样去设计一个计划，能够保护你们，能够去支持你们吧。
And again, and again, thank you for spending your time and sharing with us your personal stories. It really makes a difference when people come out and share that with us personally. We've gotten correspondence. We've gotten just small pieces of information here and there, but having you present really makes a difference. So thank you for being here.
很感谢你们今天花时间来跟我们分享你们的这个问题，很感谢你们。
Okay. All right. Thank you, the Councilmember Mechenka. And the next one, it's Councilmember Rivera.
I just want to say thank you to everybody for being here tonight. I know that as a business operator, my family having a business in the city of San Gabriel for almost 40 years, everything you say tonight is really heartfelt to me, because I am on both sides as a business person and also as a server to our community. So I feel both sides of the coin. My colleague Denise Menchaca addressed some of the questions that I had regarding the notices. So I'm not going to ask those, but in the spirit of transparency, which our city prides itself in being honest and transparent, I feel like that we as a city or a council need to investigate what happened to these notices. Why didn't anybody question the fact that only one person showed up? So I think that we need to start there. And, my colleague Denise Menchaca is right. We need to figure out a way to work with you guys so that we are able to maybe not, we can't promise you, legally what we can or cannot do, but we need to at least make an effort to help you in some kind of way. We don't want to lose you. We pride ourselves also in being a business-friendly community. We don't want you to leave our city. We want to attract more businesses in the city. We need to, for the sake of the city. So I think my colleagues and I tonight, we vow to try to do what we can to help you. So thank you.
感谢你们今天来这里，我明白你们的处境， 首先我们要调查一下为什么只有一位这个商家出现这个开会，为什么一个房客都没有出现？所以我们首先要调查一下是什么原因是这样子。同时呢，我们市议会要跟你们携手工作，我们会做一些工作。虽然我不可以向你保证什么，当然有关法律方面的事情，我也不可以这个干预。但是我要求我市议会的成员，我们要做一些工作，去帮助你们。
I have a quick question too. Have you, I know as a group, have you tried to find legal help?
那你们有没有找过律师啊？这个向你们提供法律的帮助，有没有？
You have? And what has been the outcome of that? The city? The landlord got a letter from the attorney. And he never responded. So is there anything else that follows that when you get no response? Nothing? Okay.
Okay.
Whose lease had already expired, there's nothing that we could do. We were told that we would need to vacate the premises immediately.
Right. Uh-huh.
We really shouldn't be having a dialogue with members of the public right now. We gave people a chance to talk an hour, you see?
Okay, we cannot.
How could that lead to an intention to remove 90% of the tenants? Do you feel, I mean, everybody of you, I'm sure in your heart,
Okay.
maybe we are being misled.
So it's okay here.
Right? I'm sure you think it's just common sense. How would, a resurfacing would require that many people being removed?
Let me just, I apologize for interrupting. But this is really the council discussion period. We had a public comment already. I understand that you're interested in hearing from them in general, but this is really a time for you guys to discuss the topic amongst yourselves rather than opening it up again to more public comment.
能不能翻译一下？这位翻译一下。OK， 那我能不能翻译一下
The city attorney, what the city attorney has said?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's now.
I said that this is
among the council members because we had already heard. 翻译国语，对。I got confused. I'm sorry.
I thought I could understand Mandarin for a second.
是我们这个市议员讨论有关这个事情，因为我们这个民众已经发表了他们这个评语，因为这个市政府的律师跟刚才讲话的这个市议员讲，就是这样子，因为刚才是个市议员问你们问题嘛，因为这个市政府的律师就是说，因为现在是由这个市议员去讨论有关这个事情。
我补充一下，我用中文补充一下哈，希望大家明白哈，因为开会有开会的规则，现在的规则只能是 我们市议员之间的讨论啊，因为你们已经 public comments 已经讲完了，因为这个也是现在是 live 的，是大家都听得到的。好，这个所以 City Attorney 为什么要就是说解释这个事情，希望大家能够明白啊。那个现在的讨论是我们市议员和市政府的工作人员，他们可以问问题啊，或者是我们市议员之间可以问问题啊，希望你们能够明白哈 ，OK， 好不好 ？OK， 那我也用英文跟他们讲一下，好不好 ？OK，so、yeah, I just explained to the audience, okay, based on the city attorney case, talking about currently it's just for the council member discussion. The questions only came for the staff, not for the public, because the rule on that. Otherwise, right now it's a live. People you can go to the YouTube to see it. We don't want to break some rule, right? Yeah.
Right, just from a standpoint of a parliamentary procedure, we've moved past the public comment and we're now discussing as a city council.
OK， 因为我们已经是过了那个就是 public comments 也是公共发言的时间了，好不好？希望大家能够明白。好，谢谢大家。OK， who's next? Councilmember Wu.
Thank you, Mayor Ding. My question is anyone that can answer the question on maybe the design review committees or maybe the planning? Aldo, can you do it?
Can you repeat that question?
Yes, can you answer the questions regarding the decision being made by design review committee?
For that night, I was not present at that meeting. I can only rely on the minutes.
I see, okay. So my question is, by the time that design review committee that they approve, the proposal from developer in March, do they know the tenants will be removed?
I cannot answer that.
You cannot?
I was not present, and I'm not aware if they had provided that during the scope of review.
那当3月份这个设计委员会这个批准了这个建筑工程的时候，他们知不知道这个房客会被赶走？他的回答是因为当天那个晚上他不在场，所以他也不知道。
My second question is, according to the staff report that provided by Samantha, which is the planning manager, that they are going to do the exterior and some interior. And I don't really see there is a financial impact information for this renovation plan. Did you, yes, I'm sorry,
okay, go ahead.
Did you been asked or provide any kind of numbers to the commissions before they can approve the plan?
按照市政府你们提供的这个报告书，你们所提到这个建筑工程是外贸，还有一部分是内部的装修，但是这个报告完全没有提到这个对房客的这个经济上面的影响。我想问你，有没有人要求你做这个评估呢？
So technically speaking, the project only required design review actions, which is associated with a sort of a subjective situation in terms of architectural design, in terms of ensuring that the design of the building is complementary of the surrounding properties. Is very much an aesthetic type of analysis process. As part of that process, requirements for looking at financial numbers or financial conditions are not part of that process. Now, if the project required for example, a conditional use permit or a variance, which would have then eventually ended up with the planning commission, then there could have been a potential for requiring some kind of financial analysis with respect to either relocation efforts or financial impacts as a result of the project. But being that this was solely a design review action and subject to only design architectural standards, that type of data is not required. To conclude that, the project was identified under California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA requirements, as being exempt from any environmental impacts given the scope of the project. So because of that finding of being exempt from those requirements, there isn't a necessity to look at financial components or impacts similar to financial issues.
因为这个设计审核委员会的责任只是去做一个主观的这个审核，有关这个工程的设计，这个建筑方面的这个问题，完全不会牵涉到这个经济方面的影响，所以呢，这个审核这个委员会纯粹是按照这样来做它的批准的，除非我们有处理一些有条件性的这个许可证，然后呢就需要这个计划部门 Pending Commission 去做一个这个审核的话，这样子的情况，那就需要做一些经济方面的影响，但是纯粹是这个设计委员会的话呢，他们是不需要去这个调查有关这个建筑工程在这个经济上面有什么影响。
So my next question is a CEQA required for this project? CEQA 是那个环境评估报告。It's okay. Yeah, just explain. CEQA required for this project?
It is, yes. It was required to be, so just to help explain a little bit, when a city receives a project, we are to determine whether environmental impacts are, could be an issue with respect to the scope of the project. And with respect to CEQA, or California Environmental Quality Act, just to be specific, we look at various types of impacts, for example, biological, traffic impacts, parking impacts, zoning issues, for example, will be another. There's a whole slew of items that we look at. Because of the scope of the project in this case was merely aesthetic or architectural, we determined that the project was exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act because the building was going to stay in its current form, with the exception of the cosmetic changes. And so because we felt that the project was not going to be a substantial demolition or renovation, we determined that it was not applicable to those requirements.
因为这个建筑工程的这个情况呢，纯粹是有关外貌这个改善，同时就是建筑方面的这个改善而已，就是没有牵涉到这个加州环保环境影响的这个法规，因为这个工程不需要大幅度的这个拆除这个某些建筑物，所以呢也不需要考虑到这个生物方面的问题，或者交通方面的问题，都不需要考虑的。
Some sort of scoping of the project in terms of looking at phasing the project out or looking at determining whether there's an ability of having businesses in operation while there's construction on site. And we can work with the applicant to make that happen. One of the things that we have to consider, though, in allowing operations to proceed during construction is ensuring that there's adequate path of travel, there's safety measures in place, there's proper ADA accessibility, which is a disability requirement. Those are positions that we're in now in terms of the next phase of this project, which could eventually be permitting for the project, which is under this scope now.
因为现在这个建筑工程呢，对这个房客，还有对市政府也造成了很大的影响。那你们这个计划部门呢，你们怎么样去处理这些问题呢？ 因为现在这个申请者就是那个开发商，他们已经提供了一个画图，就是让我们去审核，就是下一步就是市政府要颁发一个建筑这个许可证，那当然我们市政府还要去这个审核这个建筑工程的进度。就是确认他们这个建筑工程是安全，同时我们要确认建筑工程会提供这个 ABA 所要求的可以有通道去这个商店这些规定。
So our city roads. So far, we have two departments have involved. One is the Design Review Commissions Committee, and also our administration, because we actually got the labels that mailing to the 500 radius, business owners and homeowners that we claim that we have sent out the notice. So when you step in, I mean, the economy development, I mean, when you start to step into the whole discussion, and when did you know that there is a financial impact due to the evictions plan from the landlord to those small business owners?
Well, I think several months ago, after the meeting was, after March, when the project was approved, we started to hear about the concerns about the leases not being renewed, or some of the conflicts with regards to the lease arrangements, and as well as the construction methods at that time. When we heard of these concerns, we began to reach out to the ownership group to try to persuade them to come up with a construction plan that allowed for the businesses to remain open during the renovation project. As we proceeded through various meetings with this ownership group, it became very apparent that they were not 100% sure how they were going to manage the project. Up until today, in fact, they're not 100% sure how they're going to manage this project. They certainly do throughout 2 phases, which is the latest idea that they've thrown out. We are not confident exactly how they're going to manage this project at this moment, because we have not been made aware of that fact. We've been in communication with the ownership group to help as much as we can. We've also been requesting lists of businesses that are sort of in limbo to reach out to those businesses to help with relocation efforts. And so we're in constant contact with them in our efforts to try to help them. But with respect to the ownership group in terms of construction, I'm not confident that they know at this moment how they're going to deal with the project. And in terms of economic development, when we heard the concerns, we started to, for example, walk the site, hand out my business cards. I did receive a couple calls back with that effort. We also published on our city website the actual project itself, so that way folks can take a look at the scope of the project. And so we've had some efforts, in addition, of course, to reaching out to some of the businesses to have one-on-one conversations about relocation efforts. I did express there were some obstacles and concerns with those efforts, but at least those efforts are taking place.
当我们收到这个投诉，有关房客他们这个租约方面或者要搬走的这种问题了，我已经跟这个房东说服他们，就是要求他们管理这个建筑工程的进度，好让所有的商家他们在建筑的时间不需要关门，保持这个继续营业。但是到目前为止，这个房东他们还没有一个100%的这个计划，怎么样去管理这个工程的进度？他们只是说 这个工程会分成2个阶段，但是没有一个详细的这个管理这个工程的这个计划。但是我们已经去联络了那些有困难的这个商家这个房客，就是我们尽我们的努力去帮助他们，但是还是有这个obstacle 就是障碍，所以到目前这个情况就是这样子。
So Aldo, you just mentioned, I remember that you mentioned that the process is a little bit slower because there's so many reasons, but we have only 91 days left from today to January 31st, 2023. Do you have any plan that if city wants to help those tenants that willing to relocate, what's your plan?
Well, the plan is to look for the opportunity sites, which are the sites that are vacant, and try to fit, the businesses that are looking to relocate into these spaces. Some of that effort does require support of the ownership to supply us with a list of businesses that are not being renewed, for example, understanding what their scope is in terms of size of unit that they're looking for, and like I said, try to fit them into some of the vacancies. Now, it's easier said than done, especially for restaurants, for example, because as you know, grease traps and equipment is very costly. Not to mention, to fit them in a vacant site that was not formerly a restaurant could require the need of a conditional use permit or another public hearing. So there's quite there's a time issue, there's a schedule issue, and we are essentially looking to ownership to sort of help a little bit by providing us with information on who is not returning.
你们在协助这个房客他们搬到别的地方去，这些努力我知道你说过是比较慢，进展比较慢，但是你们做了，因为现在离开这个年底只有91天。那你们准备怎么样去协助这些房客呢？因为我们要求他们提供哪些房客，他们这个租约已经到期，然后呢，我们去努力去找一个地方，让他们搬到那个地方。但是我们还要考虑到，就是要搬走的房客。他们做的是需要多大的这个商店，同时譬如说这个餐馆，因为他要搬到别的地方，就是这个费用蛮大的，因为他们要搬这个设备，同时搬到这个地方，如果本来不是做餐厅的，那如果要改成做餐厅的话，当然又要申请这个有条件性的这个营运的许可证，同时要经过这个听证会，所以有时间跟这个安排方面的问题，我们还需要去努力去解决。
And just to add to that, I will say that once we find a location for these tenants, we essentially put them in touch with the ownership of that vacant spot, and at that point they negotiate terms of whether it's a temporary site or a permanent site. At that point, it's out of our hands in terms of how that negotiation takes place.
同时，我们一找到这个地方呢，然后我们就让就是房客跟这个房东，就是这个搬到这个地方这个房东去商议。那当然是他们之间的这个讨论了，那这个我们不会参与的。
So it sounds like we have a lot of uncertainty down the road. So let me confirm that. Are you able to provide a number that once they started the projects, that we have people they lose their job, And also, city lost the tax revenue for at least maybe 1.5 years. So what is the number that we're looking up for the project approved and they will just evict the tenants? And what is the number that we are losing?
As far as the revenue lost with respect to this project, I have not dived into that itself, and I would like to take an opportunity, at least with finance, to figure that out and come back to council with that.
Sure.
因为这个建筑工程，可能需要1年半的时间。那我们市政府因为3家的搬走，那我们损失的这个税收是多少？你知不知道有没有一个数字？因为我没有部门要求我们做这个计算，所以我们要让这个经济部门去做这个计算吧。
Well, thank you, Aldo. So I will just conclude my opinions. Well, first of all, I think thank you so much for all the business owners that make our city prosperous. And second, I believe that the developer, we want to keep them accountable, that because we don't want people to lose their job, we don't want to lose that the tax revenue. We know that there will be we definitely agree that the landlord can improve the plaza, so that make the city even better looking. But it should not be sacrificing any one of your right. And we are a business-friendly city, and we are really transparent on our decision that to be made. And I just heard about we don't really know if the label is being provided is L grade, and that caused the reason that none of you have received the notice from the city. So one thing that we call the social responsibility, that is how we want any developer that to be accountable, that before they can just move to do something. And I understand there is a two-phrase proposal, but it's not solid. So I would say that we probably have a defect procedure. Even I understand that we have done something is required by law, but since many of you have not received the notice, so my position, I would like to see that we, as a council members, and I will talk to our colleagues, and we will find a solution. We would like to review, and I would like to strive for the reinitiate the public hearings. That because the most important thing is, I want you all to be participate, no matter what plans they have, that you are entitled to know and to involve because you are all the taxpayer. Thank you.
因为我们不想损失这个工作的机会，同时我们市政府也不想这个减少我们这个市政府的税收，但是另外一方面，这个房东他有这个权利，他要把这个购物中心弄得更加漂亮，然后好让他去跟别的这个竞争，但是我认为这个发展商他们有他们的责任，他们要考虑到你们商家的这个难处，所以呢，我会要求我的市议会的同事，我们要商议，然后做出一个解决的方案，同时我们要求你们商家要参与，因为你们有权知道我们要做的这个计划是怎么样的。
Thank you. You're such a great translator. Thank you. 谢谢大家。
Thank you, Councilman Wu. And Vice Mayor Harrington.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank everyone for being here tonight. We really do need to hear your voices on items like this. It's not a good position for us to have to hear this. It seems like there's a disconnect or a failure in the process somewhere. I do have some questions for staff, so for Aldo. My goal here is to figure out where this disconnect really comes from. from on the application what appears to be a cosmetic project to one that would require 90% of the tenants to be evicted. Because when I see this application, I don't see that. And so I don't know if that's something that has been addressed with the applicant or not. On the face of this application, one reading it wouldn't think it would require evictions. So I think that could be one explanation why, let's assume for argument's sake that everyone received a notice. If I receive this notice, I don't see anything that would make me think I'm getting evicted.
Certainly on face value, it does appear that way. And we've had, as I mentioned before, we've had several meetings with the ownership group, and at least from my vantage point, it hasn't been quite clear as to what their intentions are. Our intentions, of course, are to find out how we can help with managing the project. But when sort of questions are asked in terms of, well, what's the situation with tenants, it's always been sort of the question hasn't been answered directly, I would say that. And so, which led me to my comment about not being confident that they actually know exactly how they're going to manage this project. And so that being said, I am not confident standing before you that that they understand exactly what or how to manage this project, specifically how to manage the tenants. I cannot speak for them, nor put words in their mouth, but in our meetings, it hasn't been quite clear to us what their intentions are.
Okay, yeah, because when just the title and the summary is a precise plan of design for an exterior remodel. And then you go down, you start reading, and there is some description of interior upgrades. And that's kind of where I think focus, no pun intended, needs to be placed on this. So you had indicated earlier to Councilmember Wu that they have submitted some sort of plans. Like what exactly, what's the extent of what they've submitted?
So they did submit plans that follow the scope of work that's addressed in the staff report by staff. It's on page 3 of the staff report to the DRC. A plan has been submitted, essentially an application for a permit has been submitted that addresses a scope of work that's on that table. And so that is what's being reviewed by our building department to ensure that it satisfies California Building Code standards.
Okay, so on that plan, are there structural changes or just finishes? I mean, 'cause I'm trying to get my head around what they submitted.
Right, and so I have not looked at those drawings, but given that it does require a plan check in terms of being reviewed pursuant to our building code standards, there are likely structural elements to that plan. There are, if you have looked at the architectural renderings of the project, there are significant changes to the exterior walls, and so that does require a need for a structural analysis, and so part of that is the reason why it's before building staff at the moment. Not to mention the accessibility requirements and work being done to the parking lot, those could require some structural analysis as well.
So I'm speaking to the interior renovations. So are there partitions changed? Are there beams being changed? Are there load-bearing items that would require, basically if there's engineering going on inside of a building, that would require a tenant to be moved because you can't do structural with people occupying. Facades you can. You can shore a facade. You can make it a safe path to travel through a facade. Interior improvements, you couldn't have a business operating. That's what I'm trying to distinguish here, because when it says interior improvements, interior upgrades, enhanced exterior finishes. I've been a developer. Finishes are much different. Because a finish, you don't have to get someone out. They understand that and so a structural change, if it's to the facade, you wouldn't have to necessarily evict somebody either. So that's where where I'm getting around, trying to get my head around, how does this get through Planning Commission and staff approval without any indication that there's going to be this massive scope where 90% of the people have to be evicted?
I will, because I have not seen the drawings, specifically the drawings submitted to building, I will say that any relocation of a demising wall or a wall within the units does require a conditional use permit. So anytime that a tenant is looking to expand a unit or to create new demising walls within spaces, that triggers the need of a planning commission hearing and a conditional use permit.
So that hasn't happened yet?
That has not happened yet.
Okay. So when I see a design review approval and it says finishes, I would never assume there's going to be interior whole walls and structural change. Because I consider even a partition wall as a structural change. Because when you have a partition wall inside that's non-load bearing, you still have to brace it for earthquakes. It still has to be a firewall. There's a lot of things that have to happen. So that is still needs to go to planning. That is not something that's a design review. We're not looking at the aesthetics. On the finish, we're looking at aesthetics. It could be paint, molding, crown molding or base molding, maybe adding, things here and there, but that's what I consider finish. So when I read this application, I still don't see anything in here that would require 90% of the tenants to be evicted. I just don't see it. And so I don't know if that question has been asked directly to the applicant, the project or the project management or whoever's answering your questions. That is something that should be addressed directly.
And I believe the question was asked in one of our many meetings with the ownership group. And as I mentioned, the responses weren't exactly clarified or clearly stated. Because like I mentioned, I don't believe that they understand exactly what that looks like at the moment.
So then, Mike, that leads me to the question. I'm trying to not be an attorney here. That leads me to the question, what did we approve? And did we anticipate this? Or could we have anticipated this? If they don't even know what they applied for, how do we know what we approved?
Yeah, and I couldn't answer that question as far as what staff anticipated. I did not review the plans before it went through design review. I could not put myself in their position when reviewing these plans before March. What staff looked at was, per the scope of the project, per the application, was a majority exterior renovations. Looking at the chart under page 3 of the staff report, it does identify some interior changes to the project, which include restroom facilities, a management office, signage, for example, and some finishes, quote-unquote finishes. That is essentially the scope of the work. Now, I will say that in one of our meetings, they did share with us a plan that looked to create some new demising walls within the spaces, which we then indicated to them, the ownership group, that would require planning commission review and a conditional use permit. And so they're well aware that any new demising wall within the spaces to create new units or expanded units requires another public hearing.
Gotcha. So that's kind of where I think if I were in the shoes of the business owners here and the tenants, that would at least give me a little bit of calm that if it truly is what they applied for, which is an improvement to an interior, it's a finish. It specifically says finish. It does not say structural. The city can hold them to that. The city can say, you're not tearing walls down. You can do finishes. You can do painting. You can do molding. You can replace, maybe if there's a drop ceiling, you can replace the tile. But once they touch the structure that's holding the tile, that's going to require bracing, which would require, that's not a tenant improvement at that point. So to me, this right now seems to be like an excuse to evict tenants, but I don't think it would pass muster under the city. I don't think our staff is going to wholeheartedly go in there and say, oh yeah, go ahead, start taking walls down, start making structural changes, start making things that would require a tenant to vacate a unit. So, and so that gets me to the question on page 9 of the staff report. It says, and it's from the design commission. It says that there were conditions of approval. Those weren't included in this package, but I don't know if any of those conditions address path of travel, protecting existing tenants, ongoing operations during the work. How are you going to protect the public while the work? Because any one of those would have notified staff, the public, the tenants, that something's going to be closed. So if the conditions don't address that, it would seem to me that there's nothing in this report that would lead someone to believe they're going to be closed down or effectively evicted from their space. So that's something I'd like to have staff report back to council on. Is there anything in that application that would lead one to believe that tenants are getting evicted? I think that's question one on this whole thing, because if not, then why would we approve anything that would lead tenants to get evicted when they submit their plans? Now that they have submitted some plans, another thing I'd like to see is if what's the extent of the demolition? Is it selective demolition? Is it you know, are they going at a rough demolition, like big stuff, or is it just, because the extent of the demolition would tell you really what they're really trying to do, because that would be their first thing they would be submitting is demolition plans. What are they planning on taking out? And once again, that would tell you, that would lead one to know the extent of required evictions. Let me see here. And so that leads me back to what Councilmember Wu said about reinitiating the hearing. I don't think we need to reinitiate a hearing. I think we need to have a new hearing if they're going to have a scope that would require evictions. Because to me, something that's going to design review, I would never consider that as this level. Because but that needs to be clearly communicated to the applicant. What you've applied for are interior finishes, are facades. Yes, there's going to be some workaround, but construction always has a workaround. We see all the time high-rises get remodeled with tenants still in them. And when they do the facade, they protect the public with coverings and would protect, you know, they're structurally engineered that would, if something falls, it's not going to hurt the public. There's netting. There's a lot of ways under OSHA rules to protect the public, none of which requires the whole building to be shut down. A lot of buildings get run. So if that's the case here, I think they've made the wrong application. It's not a design application. It's a planning application. And I don't know if that has been communicated well to the owner, that what we see, and we need to take the positive approach of being proactive and letting the owner know, we know you've been telling all these tenants they're getting evicted, but we don't see an application that warrants that would allow such an eviction. Now, I'm not saying you can't evict somebody for no reason. That's not what I'm saying here. The landlord within their rights, if you're on month to month, that's when we say that's a civil issue. The city really can't get into that. But if they're trying to use this as the excuse, I don't want the city to be the scapegoat, saying, well, the city approved it, we had a hearing, it's done. Because what I see from this, it's not done as far as what was applied for requires evictions. And that's the key question here, is it required? Or are there construction workarounds that would allow tenants to remain in the unit, do the finishes like painting, molding, new light fixtures, you know, things that can be done outside of normal working hours, that can be done, you know, on weekends when, say, a business has normal closed hours, because I doubt any of these businesses are 24/7. They can make accommodations, close half, and then, or move to a new unit, let one get finished, and have some moving around, but that's way different than having evictions. So I think the city needs to take a proactive approach towards that, towards the owners group and the management, and explain that what we're seeing here and what we're hearing from the tenants has a disconnect. And we really need to address that, because, and I don't want to say we're giving all these tenants, oh, don't worry about it, because there is some issues to worry about here. The fact that they aren't renewing leases is something to worry about. But I don't want the city to be the scapegoat on this. I don't want the city council to be, you know, well, we approve this, or the commission saying we approve this, because it does seem what was approved and what's the landlord's telling the tenants are two different things. And I want to make sure we're not being used as the scapegoat, because we're not. We're trying to help both sides. We want the development to improve the plaza. I'm sure all the tenants do as well. And we want the tenants to remain. We want the landlord to be able to collect their market rents. We don't take a position either way. What we want is for the businesses to thrive, and for the city to, you know, be the be the conduit that allows both parties to get along. But we're not stepping into the civil part of it, like I think our city attorney addressed. And but I do think there are some things that we have some ownership of that we could improve. And one of the things that, going back to Councilmember Menchaca's discussion about updating some of the codes, I've been advocating for years for updating our codes. I think we might address any size commercial tenant improvements that on the application they should have to disclose whether it would require evictions or not. That's something that helps us plan. It helps the city plan. It helps the tenants plan. And I think that's simple. It's just a notification that we anticipate X percent of units to have to be unoccupied to do this work. And that also allows us to put conditions of approval, saying you can't exceed 20% of the vacancy at any time, or whatever the number is agreed upon in the application. But at least it's known. And they can, at that point, we can create a schedule like this unit's getting done, this unit's getting done, this unit's getting done. And there's a lot of lead time for tenants to know and then to negotiate their future tenancy. Whether they have a 5-year lease, they have a month-to-month lease, a 10-year lease. That gives both sides the opportunity to say, you know, we really want to improve your unit, but we can't do it while you're in it. But we do have this unit that will be available on this day. So that's a matter of communication, and it's a matter of planning, which we can facilitate by requiring it, requiring compelled communication between and disclosure from the landlord to the tenants. And that would, had this happened, let's say they were planning this a year or two ago, had we had something similar to that in our code, I think a lot of this could have been avoided. Sometimes you can never avoid having to do evictions. Sometimes that has to happen. But I don't think, except for when you're doing a complete tear down and remodel, 90% is a really high rate. When you're evicting everybody, that means you're tearing everything to the studs all at the same time and building it all back up. I don't think that's what we approved. That's just my opinion. I don't think that's what the commission approved. So just to conclude, I think we really need to come back with some suggested improvements code-wise, come back with some communication with the landlord, and really get some, the title is precise plan design. I mean, we need to get some precise plans in here that say, hey, so far you haven't told us what you're doing, figure it out, tell us. And in the meantime, you know, I don't see this getting demolished by January 31st at the rate that they're going as far as what's going on. So I think that needs to be communicated too, that if you're trying to evict everybody, you really should have a reason and don't use the city as an excuse. If you want to just evict them, tell the tenants that. Don't say that we have a plan approved by the city, so we're evicting everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Harrington. Thanks all of my colleagues are asking a lot of the detailed questions. So most of the questions I want to asking also it's already have it. But first of all, still want to clarify go to the design review. So they have to disclosure there will be eviction the tenant or not, based on the current.
No, that's not required.
Not required. Okay, that's I think I maybe like Vice Mayor Carrington, maybe for the future we should be add on that to when they asking the landlord want to do the even exterior whatever improvement, right? Okay, yeah, and then. I also agree we try do the staff do some report for us if just in case this happen, what's the tax revenue and the job loss for this eviction. So we should know that too. And it actually also when I think the design planning, they approved nobody wanted to, for our city council to, I don't think we wanted, the landlord can use this excuse to eviction the tenant, right? So I know thanks all the, the business owner come in, okay. I'm business owner too, but I understand it's especially you invest a lot of money for the improvement, so you should expecting the long-term leasing and get the investment back, right? So for the landlord, they want an improvement. I think that's good things for the city view. Everything is. I think it's a good movement. We encourage the landlord to do some improvement, but we don't encourage the eviction. Their business owner, tenant, right? So for the city, so really it's also my conclusion. It's city. It's we want to do the bridge with the landlord and the tenant. So actually, before that, we hear about the business owner to tell the council member Wu. So we have a chance to let the city manager Mark and Alder and council member Wu. We have some. I think we have 2 meetings with the landlord, and actually we first of all Alder also mentioned that for myself I try find their intention, but I didn't get any direct answer. Okay, that's. I don't know what's the intention for the landlord. Okay, but the only finally I every time I just talk to them, please do the kind of things, especially for the mama pop shop. They in the place it's maybe it's already 20 years already. Try think about them too, because goes through the pandemic. So everybody is struggling after 2 years. So we should be, our city also need a business friendly for the landlord and the tenant too. Okay, so I hope they can understanding to open their heart. It's understood our small business owner if the eviction it's cost them. It's I think not just financially, maybe spiritually. It's also. Too, because you're in the one place a long time, you have feeling on it, right? So you don't want to move. For me, I don't want to move to my place too, right? Okay, so think it's next one. Okay, what I want to ask Aldo. So what our city can do? The option to do that.
Can you repeat that question?
Yeah. The question is, what's the next for the city size? What's the option we can do for the hearing, or what's the next step?
I think that is probably best answered by the city attorney's office. As far as reopening up the hearing, or the meeting was closed after that March meeting, but I'll let our city attorney answer that question.
And Mayor, I would prefer that we have a chance to talk, the city attorney and I, at some point, not in this meeting.
Okay.
Or we can talk about some of our options and bring it back to council, because I think that's what council has asked for. And to come up with something on the fly. I don't want to disappoint the crowd any more than we already have. Keith, please finish the thought you were going to start, but I don't want to promise that we'll have a solution now and then bring back in 2 weeks some solution that ends up being different than what we're promising folks.
Yeah, there's not an obvious solution from the city standpoint here, even given the concerns that were raised. So I would have to sit down with Mark and try to brainstorm something to bring back.
Okay. So, but this first step, it's for the design planning, right? But the next one should be planning commission, right? That one need to go through the public hearing, or have any based on current situation, we can have give to them the requirement is for the eviction for the tenant?
What I'd like to do first is go over the plan that was submitted to the building department to look at the scope to ensure that it's not different than what was approved by the DRC. Once I understand that scope, hopefully it's not different, I do look to provide a briefing to council with respect to some of the questions that were addressed today, including demo scope, tenant relocation revenue, every single one that was brought up this evening, I will address to the council. But if there is some indication that the scope has changed with respect to DRC versus the plan check set that does require the need of a public hearing, we will address that with the applicant. And if their choice is to go before that hearing process, we will then process that application for a public meeting before the Planning Commission, if that's what the requirement is.
Okay, thank you.
But just to be clear, you're not promising anything. You're saying you have to do the investigation first.
Yes, there's an investigation as far as looking at the drawings and then educating myself on what those look like. Hopefully there isn't a scope change. If there is, then we can address it at that point.
And I think, just to add a little clarity, I think Vice Mayor Harrington hit it on the head. Nothing we've approved at the DRC or the staff level requires a full removal of all the tenants. Everything can be done in a phased approach. It's just the landlord's option that they're trying to do this all at once because it's less expensive, it's probably more efficient, it's simpler from their standpoint. And so that's what I want to discuss, whether there is an ability to require that it be done slowly or if that's their option and we don't have a chance to stop this. They have not, to my knowledge, ever said that the city is the reason for these evictions. They haven't used this as an excuse or said we have a plan, so now you have to leave. All of the excuses we have heard, or the reasons, I shouldn't call them excuses, have been because they have a new plan for how that center is going to look, both with tenants and with a design outside. And that's the reason that they have been giving the tenants and they've been giving the city. But again, if they completed all these renovations, as Vice Mayor Harrington said, they could do the vast majority of these with tenants still in parts of the center or most of the center, but it's very much more difficult because they have to keep paths of travel and access, and then they start to run into lost business revenue issues if they have those open too long. So I think it's a choice on their part. It might be the easier way to go, but we haven't explicitly approved a plan that requires any evictions. And that's what we need to discuss when we bring a plan back.
And another thing, most of the council member pointed out, do the investigation for the March 28 notification. I think is very important. And for the future, I think if any hearing the notification, maybe we can all the council member will be discuss the need translation. Same to the meeting agenda. It's have the four language, English, Spanish, and Chinese, and Vietnamese too. So that's I think we should be bring back for. I hope that Mark can bring back to discuss about that. That's everything we try learning from the case by case, right? You never know, but these things happen. It's also help us to improvement for our. For my point, it's really want to business friendly, but we want both sides, not just for one size, yeah.
I just want to say one word. I understand that November 8th is an election. That's why we don't want anything happening before the election. We totally understand that, so please on that. After October, the gentleman's out of order.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, and I apologize, but you're out of order. This is council comment.
Okay, because of public comments, it's already gone. Okay, so today we just discuss the Focus Plaza issue. It's not the election issue, okay, all right? So we just focus on this issue. Actually, you see all the council member, it's try to our best to help we listen to your voice and hear your voice. And for myself, I understand if I in your place, I have the same feeling to want us city to help. I understand it, but also I think give to the city staff to have but city staff and the city attorney, I was thinking that for this situation, probably take how long we can have you have some suggestion to do the next step?
Well, the first step would be the investigation. So I assume we can turn that around relatively quickly, but that would be the first step, and then staff would have to talk what options would be available, if any.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. We're not talking months. I mean, it would be sometime within the next 2 or 3 meetings that we would come back with something. But it won't be on the next meeting. It won't be on the November 15th meeting.
Okay. But I know they got a notice. It's January 1st, 2023. Is it possible we try to do the ASAP?
We will do it as quickly as possible, but I also want to point out that anything we do is separate and distinct from the landlord-tenant lease issues, and they could remove all of the tenants who don't have leases, and we would not be able to do anything to stop that in the meantime. That's completely separate from the development project or the renovation project.
And also bear in mind that, depending on what's being contemplated, we may also want to talk in closed session about potential liability for the city. So we have to be careful about that too. So that will require potentially another meeting depending on where we go with this.
Okay. So, any council member have more question?
Well, thank you, Mayor Dean. I think our goal is, because there's like a pretty time sense, I understand that this is very critical time for them. But I think that it's important. I think Keith is pointing out that we should consider from the legal aspect too, that if we have any impact, that not only for this part, but if we amend anything, then we should really have a discussion. But I hope that we can expedite that sooner, at least by the end of the year, because we have like twice, the 2 meetings per month, and we have the next one will be on 15 November. If that cannot be done, then we have to do it somewhere like a first meeting in December. So I hope that will be like we can set up a deadline on that.
I was also going to suggest we can always have a special meeting too. We're not stuck on the 2 meetings per month. So that's something that the mayor and staff could also consider, a special meeting.
Yeah, if city staff, I think if ready, we can do the special meeting, or maybe we just use the first meeting for the December. Is it okay? It's 1 month.
That means we have something already can talk to all the public.
But maybe we can before the December, right?
That'd be great.
First meeting in December is the ceremonial meeting.
And that would be the new council changeover.
I see. That's true.
Let the city attorney and I talk about it.
Yeah.
I hear what you're asking, which is to get it on as soon as possible. And as soon as we have enough information to put it on, we will put it on.
Yeah, maybe, I think maybe just before the December have a special meeting. It's more help, yeah. I could really, because time concern, I understand that they really need at least we can do something, right, to help. We cannot promise anything, but we try to do our best to help the tenant. Okay, so Next, it's the city manager report.
We have the second public comment period.
Second public comments, yeah, sorry.
That's all right.
Public comment?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, we do have a speaker card from Isela Bowles.
I want to say thank you to everybody that's here. Me owning a business here for the last 35 years, I am really disappointed that you guys have to be here today. So on behalf of a business that's been here for a long time, my apologies to you because you guys should not be in this position to begin with. My gratitude goes again to our councilman, John Harrington. He has been the voice of this city, of the residents, of the businesses, and thank you. You have been a gift to the city. As for others, I cannot possibly say that because we keep having this over and over again. I have been involved with other businesses that have been established and have been very prosperous in the city, only to be in a similar situation like the businesses that are here today. And we have lost those businesses. I have advocated for those businesses, and only to have some of you that have been here failed terribly, horribly for your residents and your business. There is definitely, and I'm going to have to agree with Mr. John Harrington, that there is a definite disconnect. When our ACE corridor was approved, it impacted over 100 businesses just on Agostino. There was never any connection from the staff, from the city, to our businesses. We lost business, we were impacted in a horrible way, and we continue to be impacted with a bad design that was never put out to the businesses that were going to be impacted for life. We have roll curves that were never addressed. I have asked the city repeatedly to come and address it, and I still do not have a resolution. This is ongoing for 4 years. There's a definite disconnect. This is the reason I'm running for city council, because I cannot continue to watch how disconnected is the city and the council and the commissioners that are in these commissions. There is no vision, there is no connection, and businesses are being put in such a bad situation. A business like what we are seeing today is not something that you can just move around overnight. Some of these businesses have applied for conditional permits that take a long time to do. Not to mention the staff that they have, not to mention how much financially impact these businesses are going to be. There's a lot of permitting that has to go on. And again, I am so sorry that you guys have to endure such a thing. Has there been a connection between our city and developers and businesses? This could have been avoided.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Thank you.
Any another public comment?
I have no more cards, Mayor.
Okay. So, city manager report,
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing tonight.
council comments, and conference meeting report.
I have a comment, Mayor. Just a reminder to everyone, we have our Dia de los Muertos celebration here in San Gabriel. It is on Thursday from 6 to 9 here at the Mission Playhouse Plaza. And please go onto the social media sites and all the various, our City Beat. It is translated in many languages, but it's a celebration that we can all connect with. It's celebrating those who have passed, And it's been a beautiful, event. It has live music, we have a community altar, we have crafts for the kids, but it is a celebration of those that we have lost and remembering them and their life. So please consider attending. That's Thursday, November 3rd from 6 to 9. And thank you to Community Services for continuing to do this event. Thank you. That's all.
Okay. Any? Okay. Yeah, it's thanks to our community service to do the last week have the Fall Fun Festival. Okay, yeah, it's a lot of kids attended. So for our city, I think we hopefully if we can have the capability, have this kind of more multicultural the event like Council Member Menchenka mentioned. November 3rd, we have the, I don't know how to pronounce this like Spanish too, but it's welcome to go to city website to see this event. And by the way, I just talking about this afternoon we have this some called a roundtable conversation with our assembly member at the microphone. And with our state attorney general, Robert Bonta, they coming to talking about the anti-Asia hate, and they invited our city manager Mark there, and our Chief Harris. It's have some remark too regarding our city, and it's really like they put on like. Almost near to the 10 different organizations, and include like AYC, China's Town Service Center, and a lot of them. I cannot remember the organization name, but they provide a lot of good resource for us. So yeah, it's everything our city council we like proactive. Even like I agree the vice mayor. Talking about even for the Focus Plaza, we city also try to do the proactive to do the help the tenant business owner, right, and the community with the communication with the landlord. Okay, so yeah, that's my comments and the closing session none and. Meeting, let me see. The next regular council meeting will be held on Tuesday, November 15, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. Meeting adjourned at 10:34 p.m.